Louder. Louder.
Quite a crowd, good to see everybody.
Get a bigger hammer.
Just listen.
All right, we'll start this meeting. Keith would give our opening prayer, and Bucky would do the lead right.
Father in heaven, we thank you for the day. We thank you, Lord God, for our county. And we pray, Lord God, that you give our commissioners wisdom as they do the business of our county. We thank you, Lord God, for the snows we've been having. We pray, Lord God, that we continue to have the moisture that's going to feed our mountains, our fields, our rivers. Father, we thank you for that. We just pray, Lord God, that you would bless our county, our state, and our nation. And we lift up our nation to you right now and ask that you would watch over us, that you would give our leaders wisdom, and that you would direct their paths. We pray this now in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve it if there's no comments, no opposition.
I'll second.
Motion to approve and a second. The agenda, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of minutes in the December 12th, 2019 meeting.
I don't have any comments. I think everything's here with me.
I didn't see anything.
I didn't see anything. I'll move to approve the minutes.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second to approve the December 12th regular business meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, we come to the public comment period. A lot of people here. If you state your name, if you have something you want to talk about, any subject you'd like, try to keep it to 2 minutes, 3 at the most. And state your name, raise your hand, and all that kind of thing.
My name's Mary Griert, and I'm here to comment about the lodger's tax. Just as a little background about me, for 6 years I worked for the La Crosse, Wisconsin Convention and Visitors Bureau, and part of my work was responsible in filling hotel rooms in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So we filled 20 night stays, 20,000 night stays a year in La Crosse. And half of that was through my office. We secured conventions into the city. Of course, we don't have 1,500 hotel rooms in Catron County, but I'm just saying, as background, that was part of my work. And I was also on the tourism board there. Then when I moved here in 2000, I was on the Chamber of Commerce for all of Catron County till 2008. And I just want to, I don't know how the lodger's tax could be implemented. I don't know the cogs of government and how that would be established and collected, but I do know how effective it can be. And so I just want to give you some examples on a local level. When we were working as a chamber county-wide, we would go around to all of the towns and have our meetings, and we were effective in securing grants for Pie Town Pie Festival. We were working on a Kamado Lake Fish Days, and we were working on projects for Mogollon. But the way that you work, and you have to have some funding to do it, you have to attend the Governor's Conference on Tourism, you have to have FAM tours for projects like the Reddit, which was Rural Economic Development Through Tourism. You have to go about that. And the USDA has different they had back then, and I'd have to research it now, different grants for rural tourism. But right now, what's really cool is that there is the Rural Pathway Project, which grants, works on grants to highlight overlooked parts of New Mexico to emphasize culture, not bring in Mickey Mouse and Disneyland, but to give grants to establish exposure for cultural things in rural New Mexico to encourage tourism. And an example is the Lowrider, think about that, the Lowrider Museum in Espanola got a grant. So I'm just encouraging the thought that lodger's tax, pool of money, gives funds overseen by a council of people, reputable business people in the county to look for those pools of money, grants, and also look for ways to use the lodger's tax itself to promote tourism in the whole county. And, you know, I'm for it. I don't know the logistics of implementing it though. And if you decide on anything, I would encourage you to decide on a council of people to work on researching that for you.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Fryer. As you well know, I'm a business owner in Reserve, and the lodger's tax, that's a lodger's fee, which I have been told, I've been talking to several people, and a lot of people said, well, the only ones that should be concerned about this are people that have the lodging. And I disagree with that. I have a business, and anything that promotes tourism, that promotes festivals, that promotes parades, that promotes anything in the community supports my business, supports the gas stations, supports the restaurants, supports Uncle Bill's. To me, that is what a lodger's tax is supposed to do, or a lodger's fee. It is to promote tourism.
Yes.
Tourism brings bodies into your community, and your communities.
Jackie, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm going to interfere right now.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, as one commission in this meeting, I would like to not hear a cheering session. With all due respect. You know, Jackie has the floor. Tell the commission what it is you're for and what it is you're not for. But don't cheer nobody here. I don't want to hear, yeah, that's great, Jackie, yeah. Because, you know, we had that last week and it just wasn't.
We don't, yeah. I
So
think
forgive
the
me for being cranky, and I don't mean any disrespect. Thank you.
We got you. Thank you, Becky. I got some letters from some of the businesses in our community in support of this, and I would like to present them to you. I also have exactly what we spent for the village. I've been on the advisory board for the village for 8 years. That's when we started the lodger's tax, along with Clay Snyder, myself, Jennifer, and for a while Doug Bayard was on there. And here are some of the things that we have promoted throughout the village. I guess you've noticed the electronic sign. That was done with lodger's tax money. We also support our Independence Day activities, which we promote a dance in the evening. We've also been very successful with our Christmas light parade the last 2 years. That's something that lodger's tax was used for. And we also advertise in New Mexico magazine about some of the events and things that go on in our county and in our town through the lodger's tax, so money that we have created. And this is only done by 8 little units that Jennifer has down here. And the amount that has been made has been, in 8 years, $35,000. I've got the exact figure. We're getting anywhere in the neighborhood of $4,500 a year, just off of 8 little rooms. So just think what that could do for your county if it was county-wide. And I'd like to present these to you guys. You can look through them. That's stuff that I have prepared. And there's letters from Uncle Bill's, there's a letter from Black Gold, and there's a letter from Monica. Anybody else, would you like one? Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Carolyn Nelson. I'm from Glenwood. because we've lived here for 20 years, and since I've been here, it's been one fight after another. And it seems like I am against more government control. It seems like I may be the minority in this room this morning. But I am against more government control. The irony is, of the money that was paid in the lodger's tax, about $20,000 of that was paid for the marquee that's down there in reserve. The motel paid for that. That marquee is not in front of the motel. Did you guys notice that? Did you know until you started looking into this that she paid for this marquee? It's not in front of the motel. So instead of it being out there on Highway 180, we're in front of her motel drawing business, it's here in town when you're already in reserve. It's not out there on Highway 180 that says reserve, turn to reserve, drawing more people into reserve. It's here in town, not in front of her motel. So, when we got here, we had the wolves cremate our calf crop. So that was a fight. So the ranchers who grew up here, their kids who are my age now, in their 50s, they left because it was a fight. Our school, our Glenwood school, it was a fight. Glenwood against reserve. I don't want to send my kids to reserve because we've been fighting to keep our school open against reserve. Another fight. The lodgers, from what I understood, who do not live in reserve, do not want this tax, from what I understand. So that's going to be another fight against reserve. Now the stuff that you mentioned, the parades, we do that in Glenwood. Our community pays for it. We work really hard, the women's club, the cowbells, we work really hard. Donations from our locals, we work really hard and we get the same thing done. I had one more point I wanted to make. But I'm against government control. The reason our logging is shut down, government control. The reason there's about 6 families literally fighting to keep the shirts on their backs because of wolves, government control. The reason the marquee is not in front of the motel down there, I don't know. She's on the motel owner is on the board, I'm sure. But think about what the board is going to be, who we all know who's going to be on that board, and the conflicts that are going to come up. That's just more fighting in our town. The lighting parade I thought was really cool. My family was in it this year, and I'm going to push for the women's club and the cowbells and the community to come up here and do that because we have got to mesh. This is a beautiful place, but it is such a fight to live here. It's a fight against federal government. It's a fight against state government. We've had fights with state government. It's been a fight with local. Local is something we can control. We can control this. We don't have to have more government control. You want something? Do it. You want people to come to reserve? Do something awesome in reserve. People will come. Don't ask for more. Go, hey, let's have more government control. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Why do you want that? Why do you want more government control? So, my name is Carolyn Nelson, and I don't like government control.
Thank you. Here's also a few letters that I've collected. One is from a business, Apache Creek Store, and another was purchased from concerned citizens. I thank you for the opportunity to address everyone here, both the commissioners and the general public who came, and the outpouring is great. We're glad to see your faces. My husband and I came here for October of 2012, was it, Brand? 2012? And locally, we do a food ministry here, and it is open to Catron County. We do it here in Reserve because it's our closest geographical area. It's also more people are here. It is open again to Catron County. It is a free service. We offer free food and we offer prayer. And we both belong to the International Federation of Chaplains. and we are pastors, and we have a home church as well. I'm also by trade a doctor of naturopath, so I do have a business here. It's in my home, and I pay taxes, and so I'm a taxpayer. And we were raised in Wyoming, but we came here via Kansas. And I was economic development director in Greenwood County, located in Kansas. And that's a platform I'm going to speak on here today, is my experience as economic development director there. Now, a lot of things are similar. In Catron County, we don't have any stoplights. Now, I kind of like that. Yeah, okay, another hand. In Greenwood County, we had one, okay? There was also some similarities in, both areas are welfare communities. Now, in welfare communities, you have some things. You have abuses. You have drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and domestic violence situations. I don't know why they go along, but characteristically, welfare communities, that goes along with it. So both of those areas had those issues. I have nothing to gain by being here, and I know there'll be some people that maybe won't like what I say, but I'm going to address today facts. What I'm addressing are facts today because I know that there are some opportunities here today for us. So I want you to really take in everything you hear today and, find out for yourself what you think. So based on my former role as economic development, I'd like to share some facts. Now, I'm going to read from this because I want to honor the 2-minute rule, okay? And I don't want to miss anything. And usually I don't like to read from a paper, but when I feel rushed and intimidated by a time, I do, because I don't want to miss something important. So the lodger's tax, I want to really tell you because I've heard some things. It is not imposed on the public here, you guys. It's not a tax that any citizen is going to be burdened with, okay? That is not the case, okay? It is new money. It's new money coming in. It's outside dollars. Where do we get in the opportunity for outside dollars, you guys, in our county? We don't get an opportunity like this for outside dollars coming in. Now, as economic development director, what you want, when you get that outside money, you want it to retain it in your community as long as you can retain it. You want to visit the establishments here. You want to go to Jake's and buy groceries. You want to go to the restaurants. You want to go, I seen a new business here, Soda here, over here. You want to retain that dollar. You want it to keep in your community as long as you can, okay? That's a strategy we have, and we want to support each other, okay? So that's one. Added county benefits. There are added county benefits. How's that? Because that money is going to advertise the entire county. And it is not imposed on the citizens. We covered that. It is used to advertise market from all of our county. This is restricted money in most areas, and it should be rolled up as the same here. This money is used for advertising, publicity, and promoting tourist-related attractions, facility, and events in the county. It is a county-wide tax used for entire county, not excluding any area. We are all benefited by this tax. Again, it's imposed to the outside people coming in. I'm going to get to something here in a little bit. The full report for 2019 HBD lodging tax in the USA, this is a report that is in the entire United States of America, shows the positive economic impact of the lodging tax and the employment opportunities it creates. Think about that. We have a hard time here. There are many, many people that have, I just had a call today. She's looking for a job. We get that. In this day and age, the lodging tax has evolved into a revenue stream with numerous benefits to the county and fewer problems than in the past. In the past, there were problems, but we've evolved from those. We've perfected it. And we'll still have work, okay? We always will. People do not make their, this is another area that there's been some misconception, so I researched this for y'all. People do not make their destination travel decisions based on a lodger's tax. List what are the top reasons people travel are these. Many travelers decide where to take their next trip based on these predetermined factors. 1, social events, concerts, festivals, reunions. Visiting out-of-town family. My husband and I do that a lot. Recreational. Here, hunting comes to mind, doesn't it? We get a lot of hunters here, a lot of people. A lot of businesses, you guys, we depend on the hunters. They're not gonna worry about what they're gonna pay in lodging tax. Do you realize what they come here, what kind of money they're spending just to come here and have? They are not gonna be worried about a $5 additional lodger's tax, okay? The other is leisure, kick back, rest, and relax. We have that. I'm proud to say we have that in Catchwan County. A vote in favor of the lodging tax is a vote in favor of Catchwan County. I can assure you that. So I want to address something that the commissioners may kind of be, and Mary, you kind of touched on this too, and that's how do we facilitate that? That's kind of a scary monster. How do we facilitate this? The businesses will report the gross taxable rent, and then there's a percentage and there's a due date, and they put that into, they send that in. There is a committee formed. It consists of lodgers, businesses, and private citizens. See, there's a mix so that everyone is addressed, all the concerns are heard. There are these are all volunteers from around the county, so don't worry, there's nothing, these are paid, they're volunteers. There's eligible uses of the tax proceeds are listed and adhered to. The committee will discuss and approve expenditures, so there will be outlined. We would look at this and we would look at them and vote on them and we would adhere to that. And so that was one of the concerns, you know. It's not about a special group. It's, you know, we all, and each of those volunteers would come from all parts of the county. And they're going to be approved by the commissioners. They must be approved by the commissioners because we want equal vote. I mean, we want everyone's ear to be heard. In many counties, the revenue created by the lodging tax provides the funds needed to support the personnel that would help facilitate not only the lodging tax, but help bring in tourism. I think, Mary, you might have addressed that too, and that's true. You know, in some areas, it's paid for a person to
Ma'am, your
promote.
time.
Yeah.
Your time is
Oh, okay.
3 minutes.
Okay, well, that's good. That's about it anyways. Thank you for your time. And I do want to hand you all these. This is one each for you. Kind of an outline what I did. Thank you all. Thank you.
Adrian brought to my attention, I was looking here and couldn't find it. We have a public hearing on this agenda, so everybody that's talking about lodger's tax, I mean, we've heard, but we can do it then. So if somebody has something else to talk about, Tom.
It's kind of along the same lines. It's about our local businesses are being hurt more and more every day, and it's all due to the Whitewater Baldy fires. It's basically closed to a big degree the northwest quadrant of the Gila Wilderness, which is where I've operated for 34 years. I can't hardly take any summer business anymore. It's making it real tough to take our hunters in, and we need dearly some help from the county commission to work with the Forest Service, and nothing against John. John's done all he could to get a trail crew back in the wilderness. They've done away with our trail crews. I think they're trying to do some hires now, but the big sticker is Trail 151 from Willow Creek into the wilderness from the north end to the west fork of the Gila River. It's 4 miles of it's gone. It's been 8 years. 8 years we've tried to get the Forest Service to do something, and they absolutely spend a lot of money on this. For instance, the long-range Gila plan. They've been at it going on 3 years. They've hired tons of people and man hours and money to study the more wilderness areas, study wild and scenic rivers, and on and on. But yet, you know, we see 15 to 20 vehicles in front of John's office out here every day. That's good. That employs a lot of our people in the county, their family and friends there. But it's a matter of budgeting, I guess. They say they don't have any trail money. They want volunteers to do all the trail, and we packed Melissa Green with a volunteer trail group and the Backcountry Horsemen last year, and they were told by the wilderness ranger, do not get on the reroute trail. So they went out to Clayton Mesa, cleaned some logs, and that trail is very little used or not needed, but they absolutely will not fix our trails. But we used to take a lot of people from the Glenwood side. It's not only the Wilderness District, but the Glenwood District. Up Whitewater, South Fork used to be the only brook trout fishing in the whole Southwest. You know, that trail is gone. Whitewater Trail is gone. Big Dry, Little Dry, 25 of the 27 trails on the northwest quadrant due to the Whitewater Baldy Fire and the subsequent flooding in 2013 is basically closed. What I would really like is maybe the commission to consider sending a strong letter to Cal Joyner, the regional supervisor, as well as our Adam Mendonca, the Gila supervisor. And I know Bucky's worked real hard with Adam to try and get him off center, but we're going to have to start with Cal or maybe even Washington to you know, we used to see a lot of people, a lot of backpackers, hikers on our trails. Not anymore. I can't even take anybody into a big share of the wilderness. I can drive sure clear around the cliff dwellings and go, but you know, even the Whitewater Baldy Fire screwed up the Middle Fork and the meadows and that stream. So anyway, I would just like to see the county, and I know Bucky and you all have worked with the Forest Service to try and get something done, but we maybe start at the top and come down. I had a couple other deals. We heard at the last meeting the outfitters would be charged the lodger's tax. Is there anything to that? My hunters pay right at $300 gross receipts tax for each hunter, and I bring a lot of hunters in. They stay at the lodging here and in Glenwood, and we don't need any more dang taxes, I don't think, but I damn sure don't want to pay tax out on my tent camps in the wilderness. I don't know, I don't see how it could go that far, but and then the third thing is my good friends Matt and Laura Schneeberger have really had hell with wolves, and just recently they lost more, and they're at the very point of filing bankruptcy or going out of business, and their west end of their permit is in Catron County, although they live in Sierra County. But you know, with the Halseys and everybody losing, the compensation program's not working, and we encourage the county to, I know you guys are working hard on that, but I just wanted to stress that the Schneebergers are damn near to quit. I know Laura's ready to throw her hands up because the damn federal government won't take out the damn wolf that's killing their cattle.
Morning, folks. I'm Rose. I agree with Mr. Kunkler. Also, on the lodger's tax, it is hurting our community if we enact this. No money to cost to the lodgers. The people that come in and use it, it is hurting all of us and our other businesses, including our guides, etc. And I need to voice that. I've been asked about it, and I don't have quite enough knowledge. I do know that it's hurting, and we need not to pass this. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Joan Cartalis, and I own a local business here in Reserve. I want to say I'm in favor of the lodger's tax because I think the monies would help increase tourism, which would lead to increased prosperity in the county. And I also am curious if the commission can talk to the state or whoever maintains the roads, especially 180, about having them cleared when the weather's bad and having the stretch between Glenwood and the state line put into better repair. Thank you.
I won't keep you too long, commissioners and community. Just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce the new officer, Robert Costco. He'll be in the area now. He'll be here for anything you guys need. If it comes up, just as always, get a hold of us. And we just want to take the opportunity to introduce him.
Do you have a card yet?
He's like that dude.
Yeah, I'm excited to be meet everyone of you once I do get out here and I'm able to drive around and come into contact with all the business owners, people of the community. I'm living right now in Seattle, so I'm kind of in the center of from all the way down to here. And yeah, I can't wait, and I'm going to be meeting everyone. Thank you guys.
What's your name again?
Robert Carrasco, Officer Roscoe.
Robert
Carrasco.
Sorry.
Well,
Thank
today
you,
is National Law Enforcement Day, so
Yes,
thank you
thank
guys
you.
very much.
My name is Don Morris. I don't own a business. So one of the things that occurred to me is this lodger's tax seems to be a pretty divisive issue. And I had a question as to whether or not it could be enacted and be voluntary. And so those who want to participate can, and then they would get to choose how that money is spent. And I don't even know if that's a possibility, but I'm just trying to think outside the box and throw out ideas to, as you said, to try to have one less fight. Anyway, thank you.
Paul Giesler. I just want to address the discussion that's ongoing about the ordinance, that Freedom Ordinance, to allow us to unincorporate the county, and which would turn us back to a republic, which of course the big effect would be you're no longer subject to any of these state regulations, rules, and all these issues here surround all this same item of regulations and rules, whereas you would be in control, the county would take care of themselves, they would have their own law enforcement posse, their own militia, they would have their own jurisdiction to which they could address any legal issues that come up by the local people. And, you know, if up to this point, most of the attitude that I see is people are trying to go along, to get along, and making an attempt to dodge the fiery arrows that are going to come at you. And this will work up to a point, but at some point it won't. Everybody is going to be subject to what happens, and when that happens, it's the old too late scenario. So I just encourage you to keep working with this idea and make it happen so that we can avoid these problems that everybody's facing here with the wolves, the Forest Service. You would be in a position to make the judgment and make the calls. And you know, history shows us we've never lived in a republic. Abraham Lincoln changed that. And so if liberty is something that a lot of people have fought for, died for, and I think we ought to maintain it before we completely lose it. Amen.
Can I speak twice? The other thing I thought of, I said I forgot something, was that with the lodger's tax, you're saying that it's people from out of this area who pay for it. I know at the Los Alamos that we have rented all the cabins when our son got married. I know that there's families from here who have rented all the cabins when they're having family reunions. So it does affect us. It does affect locals also. So.
Back into that.
Thank you. I just want to briefly say that seeing as who we have in the governor's office now, that this...
Can you state your name?
My name's Tom McNabb.
Thank you.
Who we have in the governor's office right now should make people consider this ordinance. Thank you.
My name's Rebecca Beebe, most of you know me. Lodger's tax. I just want to say, I understand both sides of it. I don't own a business, but I am a tourist in other areas. And I'm just going to tell you from my side, I travel a lot, I spend a lot of time in motels. I don't even give that lodger's tax a second thought. Everywhere else you travel, in New Mexico, California, wherever, you're paying this tax. It does not make or break me if I'm going to go to Starbucks and pay $3 for a coffee because I pay $3 for a lodger's tax. So I'm coming from it from a tourist point of view. It's not a bad thing. And tourists don't look at it as much as you think they do. So that's it.
I'm going to disappoint everybody and not talk about the lodger's tax. So anyway, I just something that's been kind of eating at me, and it's just me because I'm the type that likes to celebrate things. But just to make you aware, some of you know, some of you may not know, and it'll take this year to implement, or to plan so that we can implement it next year. But next year, February 2021, is Catron County's centennial. So I would like to see the county come together and let's get with Glenwood, let's get with Luna, let's get with all the towns, and let's implement this and let's celebrate Catron County. So, thank you.
Good job.
My name's Brandon Gadelli. I've been a guide and outfitter out here for 30 years, and I've seen a lot of changes over the years, a lot. It's pretty disappointing. And I want to say one thing about all this and what I've seen, that there is no political solution to a spiritual problem. This county, this state, this country is in a big dilemma. Big. Everybody's fighting against each other. This past year, I went and talked to my supervisors, the people that I have to deal with. And what I found is stunning, absolutely stunning. And the year before, I found over 180 carcasses in the woods. And that's not just the wolves, it's bad hunting, but there's just overpredation, period. It's bad game management, it's bad forestry management, it's bad management all the way around. This place has been taking a hit and a beating for more than 10 years. And more taxes is not going to solve the solution. It's the people need to come together and they need to stop this nonsense. Because what's going down right now is just, it's straight up evil, is what it is. And it's the love of money, is all it is. We as outfitters have already paid a 3% sales tax or a gross tax to the Forest Service. And it's not, and it just keeps continuing. I probably lose my permit over it, but so be it.
This is why we need a militia.
Amen. Now, there's more taxes that want to be given out to the sheriff. For what? What is he going to do, buy a new couch for him to sit on? It's not right. It's not right at all, because these things are not being addressed in the county as they should be. Whether it be the drugs, the corruption. Who's going to manage the money? More corrupt people? Where's the answer? Is it from our politicians? Is it from our board members? We need help drastically, people. We need to come together and stop this. And for everybody wanting to get a little piece of the pie for themselves, it's not going to cut it at all. At all. I said my piece.
I wonder if I may follow in on that. There's two things that I believe are on the agenda that I want to address. That is the speed limit on the dirt roads and the lodger's tax.
Speed limit on dirt roads is off.
Oh. Well, nobody ever tells me these things, Bill.
Well,
And I'm the news.
I sent you the redacted copy.
Oh. I thought I published that one.
No, I sent you one after that.
Oh, okay. I don't think I got that one.
I sent
But
it
anyway,
to the whole group.
the speed limits, the lodger's tax. See, this gentleman is right. We're in the middle of a spiritual war. There's nothing, there's no statutes, there's no people that are going to be able to help us with this except us. And here we are. The Creator has graced us with one of the most beautiful places to live in this country. And it has some of the fabric of freedom still left here. And this ordinance that people have been talking about, I thought was on the agenda for this month. That's why I got a
The
full page
Freedom
ad.
Ordinance is on the agenda.
The freedom
Yes.
is? Oh, well, I thought it was just going to be published.
It's.
I got a bunch of wrong information here.
It's going to be published.
So this is not a discussion on the ordinance? Okay, well, that's what I want to talk about anyway. This is my 2 minutes of fame and acclaim, right? But
Just to inform you, it's an action item on the ordinance. It has been published, and it's an action item today.
Oh.
And it was on both copies that I sent you.
okay, well, I misunderstood. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's an action item
Okay,
today.
well, thank you very much. I thought that had all been
And you
canceled.
published that as an action item for today, asking people to show up for that.
Oh, I did. I
Yeah.
published it in Catherine County
Right.
Courier.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So people did show up. So let me introduce that.
The action is to publish it.
See, that's what I thought.
Okay.
You know, it's a good thing we got attorneys to keep us square here, Bill. And then, you know, these guys. I'll tell you. Back to the spiritual war. Our legal team is spot on. We got one of the hottest legal teams I think any county in the country has. But look at all the time that they spend trying to keep us from stepping in something that's going to stick to our souls forever. You know, I mean, they spend too much time in that, and that's what this ordinance is about. But I don't think that Catherine County, as a board of commissioners, and Bucky mentioned this the last time we were here.
No, don't.
He said we were all
Don't drag
family.
me
I
into
mean, we have been
this.
here.
With all due respect, Steve, don't drag me into lobbying and rallying and lobbying what your agenda is here today. Please don't do that, because I'm a legislator here in this committee. I'm going to make a decision one way or the other on this. So please don't lobby me in front of this room or in front of this board. You know, say what you have to say, take your 3 minutes, and with all due respect, if you're going to talk on this ordinance later on in our agenda, I would appreciate it if you'd wait till that time and spare us that.
I can do that.
All right.
But the point that I was going to make is that you, sitting on the Board of County Commissioners, have a long history in this county, family that's been here. You have a legacy to maintain. And I don't think that it's going to look good 20 years from now if we've got more rules and regulations than we did 20 years ago when this battle began. And if you go back, and I can talk about this later, but I would say no to any taxes. I would say no to any rules or regulations that's going to stifle the freedom, the air of freedom that's in Catron County. And with that, I will shut up. Thank you, Bucky.
My name is Connie Cordell. I'm a lifelong member of this community, a retired teacher, and I was the mayor when the lodger's tax was implemented. We thought it was a good idea, and it has served our community well. We don't have to beg for or ask for donations when we want to do something, and that's the biggest benefit that I think. And we thought it would be cool for everybody to have it, so we wanted to share. Sorry, it's not good for everybody, but it is for us. And we appreciate all the help that we've gotten. We thought it was pretty cool. Thank you.
Mary Greyer again, and so for those of you who don't know, I do have a business. I'm in the real estate business in Catron County. Well, in all of New Mexico, but I focus on Catron County. Just two constructive suggestions, which I won't mention later during the hearing, but perhaps we could think about the lodger's tax as a service fee in service to our county. A fee that's attached for those who come in, God bless them. It's not that onerous, a service fee. And that fee, that service fee is to serve us. And just one idea that could take shape is we could advertise a cosmic experience in Catron County because we're on the edge of the VLA, we have the lightning fields, we have the lightning fields outside of Camado, the dark skies in Pie Town, and the cosmic campground in Glenwood. So it can be a collective effort. It can be very synergistic, it can be very positive, and yet I appreciate all of the citizenry and your concerns, and I do embrace a lot of those concerns and perspectives too. So, I mean, there's a lot of common ground, we can work together.
I'm Patricia Brandy, and we have just moved here. We love this area. I'm kind of confused because it seems like there could be a way that it is only supervised, and the lodger's tax, I know we're through that, but it just seems like we think that somebody else is going to be telling us what to do with it. But if it was put in writing that if anything changes in that way, that the state or the federal government has anything to do with it.
See, John is here for the horse service.
Well, good morning. It's been a while since I've been here. I think the last meeting was in November. But just a quick update on the reserve district. You know, we've started burning the activity piles. Those are the piles that are from the logging operation up on the mountain at just east of Sheep Basin. So we finished about 275 acres of that yesterday, and we continue to work on that, those activity fuels from the logging operations, as long as we got good weather and good snow on the ground. From the perspective of the timber industry, you know, the Forest Service, the region, the 5 forests that are under the injunction, the Forest Service has met the intent from the courts. We got our biological opinions submitted with Fish and Wildlife Service. They've been approved by Fish and Wildlife Service, so that has been resubmitted back to the district court, and we're waiting on the judge's ruling on that. And that's not in any of the Forest Service hands, that's into the courts there. I have no anticipation of that, of the judge making a ruling anytime soon. But I know the region is the regional or the Forest Service attorneys are trying to push that through the court system so we can get a ruling. From the Forest Service perspective, that we've met the intent of the initial ruling from the judge, and now it's the judge needs to make that decision. Any questions on that from the board?
John, you know, in visiting with the supervisor and Eric down in Glenwood, that's been out now for what, about 4 weeks? The judge has had that in his hand for about 4 weeks.
So we're hoping to have something by tomorrow, at least some indication, the 10th. So, but that's.
But you guys have done the work.
Yeah.
You've done it all along. That was just a tactical.
Yeah. So on the 23rd of January, the Forest Plan Revision group will be here at the Fair Building from 5:30 or 5 to 7:30, and that's going to be rolling out the Forest Plan Revision. So that's going to happen at 5:30 here in Reserve.
You know, that's a huge conflict for us, John. And I implore you to talk to Adam, talk to the regional forester, because that's the New Mexico Legislative Conference, and we have to be at those.
All the elected officials.
And I think in order for us to comment, you know, to make objective comments, Cliff and Anita and I need to attend those meetings here. And that's gonna really make it tough on us. I mean, what do? We can't attend. We have to go and attend those meetings up there.
Plus, it's the opening week of the legislative session. They picked the worst possible time to do this.
So I'll visit with Adam. I don't know if I could get the train stopped, Bucky. I mean, I don't know about that, but I think that
Local government participation.
But I think this meeting, the public meeting, it's more of a rollout of where we're at with that.
John, with all due respect, what Anita just said now, this has been our biggest complaint here in this county. We are a local government. We're first to the trouble beyond everybody else. And we want you, with all due respect, to please pass that message along to Adam. We want to participate. We want to be there.
I hear you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And I'll pass that on to Adam. Range NEPA, we did complete the decision for the Black Bob and Lower Frisco, so that would have been McCarty, Christensen, and Keeney. With the Black Bob allotment, after, I don't know, I've been here for 23 years, we made that decision to basically dissolve the Black Bob allotment, separate it into 2 separate allotments, one for the McCarty family, the other for Christensen's. So that's, you know, Glenn's probably rolling over with joy right now. So that's been a long-standing thing to accomplish, and we finally got that accomplished. I wanted to visit a little bit about something that Tom mentioned when I came in here in regards to, you know, trails and our workforce and what have you. And just to give some background, and I'm not making excuses, this is just reality. As I told Tom, I said, being a ranger 20 years ago was, you had authority, or you had some authority to do things. Being a ranger today, the authority is definitely shrank, but the responsibility is still there. And having the responsibility with limited authority is a challenge, certainly. And I've been faced with that for my tenure as a ranger here at Reserve for the past 12, 13 years. But, so in the case with hiring a workforce, the reality of that is it's a centralized process. And we talk about government, and we talk about the things that are happening in our country at the federal level, national level, down to the state level. Things have just been centralized. A lot of stuff, outsourced, centralized, whatever you want to call it. So with the centralized process, we're talking about a human resource department that handles all of the hiring into the Forest Service. And that's done out of Albuquerque. Their workforce it's not huge. They probably have a backlog they have a backlog of vacancies that need to be filled across not just New Mexico or Arizona, but the nation. And it's taken time. It just takes time. And that's the reality. But I'll tell you, the forest, we do have the trail organization. We hope to have that crew leader hired hopefully by the end of February. And then we are bringing back the temporary workforce that we did have. And we're in the process, Tom, of working on those trails to prioritize. And you know what I know in regards to the issues in the northwest quadrant of the wilderness and the trail conditions that are out there. And it's been for the past more than a couple of years, Band-Aid operations in regards to, whether it's opening up the Crest Trail in Mogollon or the lookout to get there, it's bare minimums. We all know the conditions out there. You can cut the trees out, and before you come back out, you got more trees to cut out. And it's recognized that, we do have a problem. The problem is how do we deal with it? Is it, the dollars, the workforce. I heard this group in the public comment talk about coming together and doing things together to get it right. I think that's the other opportunity that we're talking about with partnerships, whether it be backcountry or outfitter guides or what have you. I do know that offset for outfitter guides is being worked on by Adam in regards to the tying back to the fees for outfitters, the offset of fees for the work on trails. Of course, with that, it's going to be my understanding that identifying those trails that we collectively agree are the priority trails to access in the wilderness. So, that's a lot of words without much action, but that's where I stand and what I know of right now. And as the ranger, I have no responsibility of wilderness trails, but I have certainly a large majority of access is from the Reserve Ranger District into the wilderness, and I spend my fair share of time going in there, so I'm pretty well grounded with some of the issues that are associated with the main arterial trails. And I will continue for the rest of my tenure as ranger to emphasize that that's a major economic driver for Catron County and the use within the wilderness, not just for outfitters, it's for anybody that wants to go and enjoy that experience. Certainly outfitters have a vested interest because that's how they make their living. So with that. So in closing, I know Tom's got a question, I'll get with that. If there's any other topics out there that needs to be addressed, I'll address that and then I'll get back with Tom on his question.
Are you familiar with Agenda 21?
I've heard about that for 35 years right now. And I'm not going to get into my perspectives on that, but I'll certainly visit with you one-on-one on what I think about it. Anybody else? Tom?
Yeah, what's the date on that forest plan revision meeting?
It's the 23rd, but I'm going to talk with the forest supervisor in regards to having representation with the Board of Commissions here. There's a conflict with the state legislative going into session, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to send me notices about all those meetings, but they quit when, the last meeting I was at, they didn't like what I had to say, and the notices stopped.
So Tom, you might want to check your email because it just came out like Wednesday or day before yesterday, Tuesday. That stuff. Tom.
One thing I forgot to mention, we've got a safety, big time safety issue on these trails. We had a group from Portales, some flatlanders that didn't have any idea what they were doing with horses, arena horses. Coming up Trail 172, they took our route down into our camp and got in big time trouble. They lost horses off the steep hillsides. They crippled their horses. They tore up. The Forest Service, if they're not going to clean the trails, need to put signage on every trail so they don't get these people in trouble. I know we've had trouble for years down where Cooper Canyon runs in. They try to go up that old trail and they get in a wreck. And I've tried for 8 years now to get them to put better signs on each trail to warn them. Under Whitewater Baldy coming down 172, everybody gets in trouble there. They can't even find that trail anymore. And it's a huge safety problem, and I brought this up to Adam and Krista last week in emails that they better start taking care of the safety issue.
Okay. Noted there, Tom. Thank you, and I'll pass that back and make sure they got your.
Those guys from Portales, it's a wonder they didn't kill a horse or they fell.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Manager's report.
In the interest of time, I'll provide a written report to the commission on most things. But something that's not a big thing for Catron County, because we're one of the worst counties in the not just state, nation, for reporting our for the census, and that is up. The one thing I want to bring up is, and everybody's saying, well, you know, we don't like paying taxes, we don't like that, but if we don't get the, it costs the county a lot of money because we don't get money coming back to us because we don't report our people there. We're underreported by at least a third of the population, and the census workers will be coming around. And by the way, anybody that wants a job with a census can contact me, and I'll point them in the right way and stuff, and ask you to spread the word. Please don't shoot a census worker. But it's something that we do, that the whole nation does, and like it or not, we survive on taxes. And until I see an alternative that provides the money that we get, we have to live on what we have and what we do. And that's the way it is. Right now, Catron County gets over $1 million from PILT and small county funds that if you decided, well, we don't want to be a part of any of that, we'd have to replace that. We get over $2 million a year to keep our road crews and buy equipment and stuff. If we didn't have that, we'd have to replace that. But all of that funding is predicated on who lives here. And so it matters that we know who live here, and that we document that. So the census work is there, and it's they're just getting started. There's going to be meetings. There's going to be more meetings held in the upcoming weeks for people interested in working. And if you know anybody that needs a job, pays $16 to $18 an hour plus mileage, and they'll be hiring for this year. They'll be hiring really soon. So we need to get that. We need to participate in that to the best of our abilities. We have a short legislative period coming up, so there'll be a lot of action in the month of February. And one of the things I'd like to report for the community, the fair, the Catherine County Fair, we did receive money to make some more improvements on the fair, and I gotta tell you that the guys that are working on that did a great job for the fair board, and we will have that up for an action item in February to purchase the building. And they've done something that a lot of people have not been able to do, came in under budget. And still coming up with a nice quality building that we're gonna put up there. Target Solutions is the company we use to provide training. And the good thing about that is we can do, in Catherine County, we live out here in the middle of nowhere. So this provides training that they can do on the internet. So our fire crews, our school children, the other members of the county, we have to get training in. And so instead of driving to Albuquerque or Cruces or Silver or Socorro, we can do that online. And we did over, we had over 440 training sessions done. We have a lot of people here that are working hard to keep up on their licenses, that are staying up so that we can be, provide the best opportunities for these people, and they can provide the best service for the county. So that's a good thing that we have that available. We have a grant that we have received to improve the communications network for our EMS, for our sheriff's department, our fire crews, and that committee will be meeting later this month, and they are we're going to have the funding to make some significant improvements, and we're trying to make sure we do it right this time. So we have some people that are committed to improving that, and we'll be getting that done as soon as possible. Anything else, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee?
The aviation director.
We have the possibility to have the funds to move the building out to the airport, and it looks like it's going to be paid for, so we'll be able to have improved facilities out there. And we're also working on a grant to redo the runway lights, make our airport more accessible for anybody using it, but also bring in more tourism and stuff that way. So hopefully we can get that building moved out there and have improvements, more improvements out of the airfield.
One of the attorneys might be able to, the aviation director talked to Bill, and he called me, have this building, it's already setting down here, they'd be willing to move it. Is that something we would have to take action on as a commission to approve?
I would think so, yes.
So we'd have to have it on the agenda.
Yes.
So that can be next.
So Bill, what would be the purpose of the building?
Set up an airplane lounge where people can come in, phone services where they can, like if they're flying in and then somebody's picking them up, that a place where they can be and utilize, and possibly expand, and for future expansion if we needed it for. The building's big enough, we could actually put in a few rooms if somebody had to stay out there or things like that. It's kind of in flux right now.
So did I cover that in our permit?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
We just need to check on it.
Well, no, I think it's, no, that's cut. I'm pretty sure that's cut. Okay.
All right. Finance report. Finance report, no comment. We got it in here.
This is 2 months that we haven't had the report.
Got it here.
I have.
So we can't ask.
That was dropped off at my office a few days ago to put in the report, so it's in that report's in there. I have no idea. Connie's not talking.
Has her deputy
I think she,
said anything?
I think her husband went off this morning.
Can we table this until next month? Not that it's that big a deal.
Make a motion.
Move to table the finance report till next month when somebody from the treasurer's office is here to answer questions of the briefing.
Got a motion and a second. Table this till next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, we want to go into the discussion items.
Can we take a quick break?
Yeah, let's take a break. Okay. Let's take a quick break. We decide. We want to go into
What kind of changes did you make to the phone with the fire department?
quick break. Powerhouse Road.
Yeah, I'll be real brief. Mr. Chairman, some time ago, Game and Fish, came to me and I helped them do the Gila trout program there in the catwalk, and during that period too, Tom Punker did some packing, I think, didn't you, Tom, to stock some fish in different places, and so at one point myself and now Mike Sloan, who's the director of Game and Fish, we talked about having better access to above the catwalk. There's an old road, historical road that we got listed on the travel management process as a full OHD road, a lot of history there. So we've come together with the Glenwood Ranger District, the supervisor, Game and Fish. We had the OHB people, Craig Sanchez and Matt Seidel come down. And of course I was there on behalf of the county. I wasn't committing or representing us, just listening and discussing. And the New Mexico Off-Highway Vehicle Alliance group was there. So the groups are trying to come together and put the road back in as a high clearance type OHB road, which would include Jeeps, trial bikes, four-wheelers, side-by-sides, and also would allow the Game and Fish to use some sort of high clearance vehicle to stock that with. So what's needed is, I believe the Forest Service's construction crew is going to go in there and do some preliminary work. And there are a couple of places we talked about maybe having some of the culverts out of the floods, or just putting a lot of big rock back in and covering it to try and get the road open as far down as possible. All that hopefully will move along this spring and be done. So at some point, the Forest Service, and John can correct me, we have to kind of be careful how money is provided for this kind of thing. It's easier for us to have a partnership or a sponsor, several agencies sponsor. I think right now the last priority way we were thinking of doing this is raising some funding and hiring a small dozer, a 4 or 5, to go down in the lower end of it and fix some bad washout places. So that's in the work, and I hope that one of their big concerns is the ongoing maintenance. And of course, the first thing I told Eric Stimmerman was there's no way the county could be responsible to, we do maintain, part of that road is on our system, about 2 miles of it. And I think we probably work it maybe once or twice a year, a little bit. It could really be a draw to our area. It's very panoramic. It could provide a lot of access for fishing and recreation in there, and give people off-highway enthusiasts a half a day or 2/3 of a day to go to a really unique place. So, as we move forward doing this, you know, I'll keep the county board commission advised of it, and also keep you guys very informed if there are any requests of us or what requests might be of us to participate. And with that, I'll answer questions or I'll move on.
Did the game department give you any idea how long before they thought they would be able to get the fish in and open fishing back up for the Gila natives they're gonna be putting in there?
In Whitewater, Tom?
Yeah.
Well, they're already in there. They've already stocked them in there. And
Well, they were still electroshocking and poisoning the upper end as of last fall.
I think that's way above the powerhouse, isn't it?
Well, I knew they put a little in through the catwalk, but I don't know about the South Fork and the main part of Whitewater.
Well, I see some folks shaking their heads over the Gila trout program and the poisoning and the electroshock. I've been down that road for about 2 years with the game and fish. And first of all, you know, I want to talk about Game and Fish's biologist, Jill, who literally covered the whole Gila forest and looked at all of the streams, even under the constraints of the trails, as Tom can tell you, it was pretty bad shape. And this girl, I'm sure, Tom, you would agree with me that she probably visited every place she talked to. So this new style of poisoning streams is very safe, very different than the old stuff, very different from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, who came here, poisoned streams, and told us to stay out. And after the fire, we didn't have very many fish in those streams to fish, so people couldn't recreate. And it didn't help businesses, you know. And, you know, when we talk about wanting to be a destination place, here's an opportunity. Here's a trout that's good. So I got on board with that and thought, you know, there was a lot of pushback from people that were real concerned about the poisons, how they put it in the streams and how they treat the streams and how far they treat the streams. And it's quite a science. And I encourage everybody to get that report and read about that retinol and stuff.
My concern is it took them many years on the West Fork. They had the upper 22 miles of the West Fork of the Gila River closed from fishing. So that was why I asked how long before they expect to have fish back in main Whitewater Creek.
I'll ask Tom. That's all I can do.
Yeah, I didn't know if they gave you some idea. But
No, we talked about roads, we talked about access, and we talked about how they might stop that. And the Game and Fish is interested in a vehicle that can stop that.
So Tom, I believe that, you know, the treatments were successful there above the confluence of the South Fork and the main stem of Whitewater. And I believe that the game department is going to be looking at putting fish this spring back in there. Of course, the fish have already been put in down there by the catwalk, and I would think that fish would migrate up the creek, but they're planning on doing some stocking this spring and early summer.
would they open fishing immediately or hold on to it for a while?
You know, depending on the size of the fish, I have no idea, but I don't think it's going to be like the years past. I think you're going to be able to go in there and at least fish, I think.
Yeah, well, what bugged me was they poisoned and shocked all the brook trout out of the South Fork of Whitewater Creek, and that was a gem in itself. And I don't care, you know, about the whole damn deal. They killed a thriving stream full of brook trout when they poisoned this and electroshocked the South Fork of the Whitewater Creek from Tennessee Meadows clear to the powerhouse. But I mean, that was a destination for my fishermen. Now we've got an opportunity with the Gila natives, so I'm not saying that I'm not a business on the fishing. I think people will want to catch a native.
Let's move on to the wolf issue.
As far as the wolf crisis goes, the only thing that we have, that I have to report on that right now is that Jess has been asked to present at a couple of meetings, and he asked for permission, and I told him yes, he could. He's been doing a very good job at representing the county, and they're starting to recognize this. This is actually a Colorado group that's calling and asking for his opinion. So it's good that we're getting out and we're getting recognized. That's what I have right now, and as far as I know, a wolf crisis will be on the discussion item for the next 30 years. And on item C, Mr. Chairman, I've already reported on the census.
I'm going to a meeting on the 15th of this month, Albuquerque. The MOU stuff. They're going to discuss depredation, and I think a lot of them are in denial that their wolves are this bad. So we'll see if anything good comes of that. As I've been to one meeting, I just told them, you need to pay these people. You're taking their property. You need to just pay them. I'm not under any illusion that we're going to end this program. I think this program is going to continue because that's what they want to do. So we'll see what happens with it. This Cal Joyner, Tom mentioned, he's the one that wanted this meeting because he said, what do I tell these people that are running cattle in the forest if if the wolf depredations have spiked? But I think a lot of the wolf people are thinking it's an anomaly, and I think they're wrong. I think it's going to continue to get worse. So enough said about that, but I'll be up there at that meeting and I can report back next meeting what, if anything happens. Okay, retiree health care. This is something I want to.
On the wolf petition the county put out was during the meeting when we had with Representative Kosher Small. I didn't agree with the way the petition was worded, but anyway, what has become of the petition?
We took that petition to the Washington meeting and presented that to the department when we met with the Game and Fish. That's what that petition was.
Fish and wildlife.
I mean, Fish and Wildlife. We wanted them to see how many people in the county were opposed to this, and we took that, and that was part of our presentation.
Did you have a good number?
We had a pretty good number when you consider there's 3,000 people living in the county who need to be reported on the census. But at any rate, when you get over 400 signatures, you're doing pretty good.
Retiree health care is something I brought up.
Mr. Chairman, we are at this time in the process of requesting an assessment process, and we have to go through you have to go through several steps with that, but we are in the process of getting that. Hopefully we'll have bona fide numbers for you. It would be nice by the February meeting, but it might not be done by then.
So somebody from the state will do that? Or?
Yes, but it's actually it's actually done through an office in Phoenix, and they're the ones that put it all together. It's by a finance firm because they have to provide a report on how much it would cost the county to buy into the program, and if it would change, or how much it would change for the current employees to pay extra, that sort of thing. They'll go through different options for us.
So any idea how long that will take?
I don't.
No other discussion on that, we'll move on. Quonset hut building fairground.
What we've kind of decided is, we think that we can move it with our crews and actually use the building. So we're looking in that. We still have flyers out around in the local area if somebody wants to make a bid on the building. We haven't, I've had a couple of discussions, but nobody that's wanted to. But Mark and I think that it's maybe viable for the county to use that building in another aspect. So we're looking at possibly moving that in the very near future.
You'd have to take it apart to move it?
No, to take it apart, you just need to demolish it the way it's put together. We think that we can pick the whole thing up and transport it on a flatbed trailer. And if we can't, then we'll demolish it. And we might demolish it while we're doing it. Yeah, I guess. Mark's driving.
All right, social security tax, what's that?
I didn't put that one on there.
That one I think came from me, and I don't have my printout. It's a,
Mr. Chairman, I think I can speak on this. So this was based on a resolution that was passed by Otero County, which they circulated to the other counties. I'm requesting that the state consider the repeal of the social security tax. The state income tax on social security. And so I think among the basis for this are that the average tax on New Mexicans, our New Mexican seniors, is about $700 a year for income tax and social security. And the average disbursement to the seniors in the state is about $13,000. So we have folks who are living in poverty, our seniors are living in poverty, and you know, this is requesting the legislature consider the repeal of the income tax and social security benefits at this upcoming legislative session.
When is it gonna be on the?
Representative Armstrong is sponsoring the bill.
So can I get directed from them to write a letter? Because we can't have it, it's not an action item, but.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I can.
Yeah, I mean, we can.
That's under my purview to write a letter.
Absent any objection from the commission, then the manager will prepare a letter.
Because it needs to be there
right.
by next week.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I sent you a copy of the bill. Did you get it?
I did get that.
So the state taxes federal social security?
That's correct.
Social security recipients. We're one of what, 11 states that do that?
That's right.
Okay. All right.
Do we want to write that letter?
I'm good with writing a letter.
Okay, I'll do that. It's one thing we should get really good support on from members of Catherine County because we're all old.
And we done been taxed once on that money.
Is this something that New Mexico counties is gonna put on as a legislative priority?
It's not in the list of this year.
And they won't address it? You guys have already made your priorities, they won't?
Oh, yeah, that's I mean, they can, and the executive committee can add something to it.
I would
Certainly
think,
something they could add.
I would think that should be something we should push next week, or not next week, the week after
I
that.
think we should.
Yeah.
That we should throw our support behind that. I really think, and I will actually include a letter for the committee.
All right, we're down to public hearing items. Which one we want to do first?
Borderlands.
Borderlands?
They've been patient and waiting.
All right, we'll have a public hearing on ordinance number 2020-01, authorizing industrial revenue bonds, Series 2020, in a maximum aggregate principal amount of $200,000 to finance wind energy generation facilities, and authorizing all actions necessary to effectuate the project. So, what do we got?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I'll start off a discussion about it. So you've directed the publication, we've negotiated of this ordinance, negotiated the distribution with the schools of the Pell payment that's been proposed by Borderlands. And just generally and basically, and as we discussed before, IRBs are an economic development tool that the legislature has allowed us to use to incentivize development of projects in the county. It provides job growth and capital investment and increased economic activity. In this instance, it'll provide the county, we're thinking probably about approximately $150,000 a year beginning next December. So we receive these payment in lieu of taxes to compensate the issuer, which is the county, and the school district in which these projects are located, for the tax revenue the project generated before taxable. As you've heard multiple times here with respect to this particular project, 90% of this proposed wind project is on federal land, so we presently do not receive any taxes for this property. The IRBs don't result in any, they don't impact our credit rating or ability to issue bonds or borrow money. It's not a general obligation of the county, and I stand available for any questions. And you certainly want to make this available or open to the public for their comment on the draft ordinance.
It's 200 million.
200 million, yes.
I said 200,000. So this won't cost the county anything.
That's correct.
And Mr. Chairman, just wanted to say good morning. My name is Jamie Gentile. I'm a project director with NextEra Energy. With me is Christy Beckenhausen, who's project manager. Gabe, who's normally here in front of you, had to send his regrets, as I mentioned, some of you convalescing from some recent hip surgeries. So we are here to do our best to answer any questions. If there's something we can't answer, we would be happy to try to get Gabe on the phone as well. And I know counsel here for you is very well versed in the contract as well. So, thank you.
I just wanted to say that it provides a lot of benefit to our county with no possibility of it coming back on the taxpayers in favor.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, maybe the manager might want to speak on what sort of revenue you might need to the county.
Well, obviously, it's going to help both the county and the school district, because for the next 20 years, or starting in 21, we will receive payment from the company off of this venture, and the county is going to be getting in the excess of $150,000 a year for 20 years. It's going to be a win-win situation. 30 years. Excuse me, 30 years. I just don't figure myself being around long.
Come on, Dave, we want you here.
I was wondering where the power goes to.
Mr. Chairman, I'm certainly not, I'm not an expert with respect to how electricity works, except I can say that electricity is not stagnant. We can't say that it's not gonna go to New Mexico. It goes on the grid, and then it goes to where it's being drawn to and where the demand is. Is that correct, or?
That's correct. In this case, our customer is a local New Mexico buyer. So.
And Mr. Chairman, I might just add that the IRB, I don't believe I said this before, but it does not affect our property tax rates or our gross receipts tax rates. And if anything, it might obviate or erase the need for the imposition of a GRT increment based on the additional revenue the county is going to recognize from the IRB. So.
Well, Dave, I'm kind of in that guy's corner. I don't think that's an unreasonable question. That's where this power's going. You say a New Mexico buyer, I've heard that it's Tucson Electric.
Yep.
And I've heard it's California.
My understanding is that it again, once it goes on the grid, it's sort of like water. It's gonna travel to the path of least resistance, so it's gonna be on the grid. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Gary.
It's gonna tie into that big power line there.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a wonderful idea about anything that brings business into the county and revenue. That's awesome. But one thing I would like to say is, did y'all decide, I know Camado School District will benefit, does Reserve School District benefit?
It's within the Camado School benefit, it's in the Camado School District, it's not in the Reserve District.
I know that.
So by law, that's where it goes.
But I thought at one meeting I was here, you discussed that.
They get $10,000.
That's what I thought. Okay, is that a year?
Every year.
Okay,
They will get $10,000.
okay, that's what I thought.
It's
that
not
that's what you
much,
said.
but it'll buy a few computers.
No, that's great. That's wonderful that you're even considering doing that. That's great.
Nothing else?
I think it would be nice if Christie would share with the group some of the details about 200 to 300 employee workers for the construction and so on and so forth.
So construction will take place in partly in 2020 and in 2021. We're expecting the site to be fully functional towards the end of 21 in the September timeframe. So in that window, we're going to have a high volume of construction workers coming through to build this project out. Now what's nice about that is we're not adding any kind of negative impact on the community, right? It's not more students in the schools that will impact your taxes or the needs or the resources there. And we have different agreements in place to make sure that everything that we do follows all of the permitting requirements within the county, the local ordinances. For example, using the roads, right? We make sure that the roads are brought back to the same, if not better condition than when we got there. So you will not see a negative impact on your community from us.
We're hoping for better.
We're here to be a good neighbor.
Dave, I can tell you we build wind farms, but we actually build more roads than we actually build wind farms. So we're really darn good at building roads.
About how many employees do you expect during the building?
Anywhere from 200 to 300 workers, and that is, Anita, that is also, that's contractors that we do have to bring in for some specialty work, but that is also trying to grab some local labor from the state of New Mexico. So hopefully in this region we'll have some laborers that'll be willing and wanting to work on the project. Those are also 200 to 300 workers that will be using hotels, groceries, gasoline, tools, things like that. So
I'm sure Springville, Arizona will thank you for that.
I was just getting ready to say, I realize that Springerville is gonna be a lot closer for them because of where the
Is there any way we
project-
can impose a tax on them?
In line with the discussion that we've had with the lodger's tax and those that are against it, we don't have lodger's tax in Camado, so could you make sure that some of them actually stay in Camado?
Well, so what I would tell you too is that a lot of times these workers will bring a lot of their fifth wheels and camp, and so it sounds like there's quite a few facilities in and around the area that they may be able to utilize.
I just like to see a little bit of business in
Sure.
Camado, because I realize that Silver City's gonna be a lot closer for them. But that's, I mean,
Springerville.
Springerville, sorry, I always get the two of them mixed up. Springerville, I realize it's closer and there's more amenities there, but it would be nice if there would be some, I know you can't tell them where they have to stay, but if there would be some encouragement that they do support the local.
We will definitely try to put up the use Catron County banners as much as we can do.
Yes, there's an opportunity for entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
the Red Hill burrito wagon needs to be.
That's right, Marissa's Navajo taco stand. Started the other day.
These folks get paid pretty much every Friday, so if you got a mobile business and want to go out there and earn some money, they'll be there.
Just to point out, when you did your business off of I-40
Yes.
and Laguna, out of Laguna, and the Laguna burger, you got when they were there, the company made enough, that's when they actually expanded and put the one outside of Route 66 and have made a name for themselves. And so there is an opportunity there because there's gonna be a lot of people eating lunch.
Could we put a toll booth?
I like that.
Border with Arizona?
Okay, in the interest of time and old people's bladders, I think we're doing well here.
Any other? Discussion on that. Let's go to the one everybody's waiting for.
Before we start the conversation on the lodger's tax ordinance, I just have a question for the legal team and for anybody else that might want to try in. This is an issue that obviously we've got a fair amount that are for it, a fair amount that are against it. Is there any way we could put it on the ballot and let the public decide?
It's a great question. There is not in New Mexico, we do not have a legal referendum process. And that's why you saw, a great example would be in the city of Albuquerque when they wanted to get rid of their red light cameras. They put it on the ballot as an opinion, but then the board still had to vote for it. So it cannot be on the ballot through the county clerk's office. I mean, I assume you could figure out some kind of other mechanism to do a public opinion poll, but that is all it would be, is a public opinion poll. It would not be an actual referendum under New Mexico law.
Mr. Chairman, I would encourage the commission here. I've thought a lot about this and I've had mixed emotions, you know, and I've been a businessman. I know some of the questions that they have, that I have, would be things like, how many people would participate in this? What businesses? How many businesses in this county would participate? That's all of the motels, all of the B&Bs, all of the Airbnbs. I assume RV parks, is that right?
Yes.
Yes,
No.
yes, that's correct.
RV parks, and I know that Mr. Plunker had a question about tents, you know, about housing for outfitter guys.
No bathroom in the tent?
Not if it, I mean, not if people go and set up a tent. I mean, if it was you know how you have those fancy tents with like a forward operating base maybe, but.
Maybe something that, so we find out, and then we have inconsistencies about fees, what different hotels charge. And what would the percentage be?
We can't go higher than 5, but I thought we had discussed like 3.
Mr. Chairman, yes, it could be up to 5.
Is that up to this board?
That is up to this board today to decide, or, and for instance, Socorro County does 3. You can do 5 or anything less.
Okay, so, and also, then, once we know all of this, once we know how much revenue, you know, ballpark revenue that this is gonna generate, then who enforces the collection? The county enforces the collection, which is going to be a burden on the county. Somebody's got to go out there and do it. The other thing is in our county offices, Airbnbs, as I'm told by some folks, that they get their monies direct. It's taken out in the computers direct. But it's also on the business to set aside this payment. I don't know if they do it quarterly, monthly, once a year. Is it monthly? Okay. Then somebody in the county offices is going to have to track this. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so that's another burden on the county. And also, this commission is going to have to appoint a committee. Yeah. My grandpa once told me that horses' intestines were made by a committee, and that's why they have twisted guts so much and they die. A good horse dies. It's always kind of stuck in my mind when we're appointing committees. So, you guys, we have all of these questions to answer. And before, as you said, last time we met, Commissioner Snyder, you said, I don't want to pass a tax or pass a burden on anybody without really knowing. And I think, in all fairness, we need to investigate and try to find out somehow, with transparency and with fairness, exactly what we're going to be collecting, exactly what we're getting into, exactly how does it benefit everybody or hurt everybody. So, before this discussion goes any further, that's kind of where I feel today. I would like to see us investigate.
There are a lot of unknowns as far as what the county can generate, and part of it is we don't require business licenses. But he has to get a
Another
business
thing,
license.
a benefit to the county, in my opinion, would be the increase in gross receipts tax, for one thing, you know, to bringing people in that are spending money. That's gonna benefit the county. And that should well offset any book work they have to do.
Oh, thank you.
The way I read this, so if you have a trailer park and they're there for 30 days, doesn't apply.
Correct.
If they stay there for less than 30 days, then it applies.
That's correct.
I'm reading this order. Okay. So everybody that will apply, so the questions I have, the problem I have, is Bucky's the one that brought it up. Do we have any idea how much we can generate? Now, Jackie Fryer brought me this from the village, that helps me. There's $4,100 a year that they're getting from one motel. So if I figure Kamado has a motel, another 4,000. There's 4,000 to us, Daddle, Glenwood. I come up with, you know, and this is just thinking. That'd be $12,000. And if you have all the people that are housing hunters, and so if we could generate $24,000, I think we would have to hire an employee to take care of this. And we couldn't cover the cost of that employee. But we need to know what kind of money we're gonna generate before we go jump into something. If we can't generate enough money, we're not helping anybody. So before we can vote on anything, I think we need to have some better understanding. I don't even know, you know, like Adrian said to me, well, will anybody be honest with you when you're calling it back? How do we run down everybody that's housing hunters? That would be our largest income right there. My wife and I used to do that. We charged them so much to house them and feed them. Well, how much of that's out? So whoever's collecting this tax is going to have to do more paperwork. So I was thinking, if I was still in that business, I would have to raise my prices because I got to get paid for my time to report to the county. I'm going to have to report to the county once a month. Now the county's going to have the ability to come audit me. So I'm going to have to be able to explain to them where I got that number. And if they say, well, no, that's not right, I better be able to prove that my numbers are correct. So the county's going to be able to audit me. And so I've got to do paperwork. Now I understand that someone that owns a grocery store or a cafe or a gas station are for this tax. I understand that. They're not going to be doing any work. So I need to know how much we can potentially bring in. And can I pay, because the county can't just pass a tax and then walk away from it. I've seen so many ordinances passed in this county that we pass and walk away from. And nobody, 12 years later, someone says, well, we have an ordinance about that. And nobody followed it for all those years. If I pass this, we're going to do this by the letter, and we're going to make a lot of people mad when we're over there into their paperwork and their business. Because I intend, if I vote for this, I'm going to see to it that we do it, and we do it right. There's the only way to do something is to do it right. So what can we generate? We don't have those answers. What's it gonna cost the county?
The people that are renting these places out, they're keeping books on it. They're keeping records of what they're bringing in, or they should be.
Yeah.
So there's your way to get into, how much.
So how do we go about coming up with those numbers? is my question.
I will be willing to offer my numbers, which are the ones that are there. I am the only lodger that is collecting and remitting lodger's tax for the village. So that is one small motel. I have the least amount of rooms of any of the large motels in the county. So if you were to take that and multiply it times 6, which are the large motels in the county, and you were to do that again times 7 for all of the Airbnbs, which are now drastically cutting into all of our large motels business, that's going to be at least $28,000 a year. Now I have a plethora of ideas as to how we could implement this, as well as how it's not going to be a financial burden on the county. Unfortunately, at this juncture, I definitely understand the fact that it is a huge amount of paperwork that it's like we're looking at. But I have to remit gross receipts, and the state is responsible for that. I am assuming that this would follow along with my gross receipts to the state and then be remitted back to the county, but I could be in error on that. But that definitely takes the burden off of the county. Now, in terms of speaking on what Commissioner Allred said, Airbnb is a separate entity. All you literally do is send them a copy of the ordinance and they send you a check every single quarter. I have vacation rentals in Deming. When my guests book down there through Airbnb and VRBO, they say, guest, here is your 5% for the county, here's your 5% for the town, and here's your now 5% for the state. Because we now have a lodger's tax that every single one of the lodgers in this county have to pay to the state of 5% as of the first of the year. So that's already happening, and so the state's getting their piece, the village is getting their piece, and the county is the only one now at this point. We're not getting our piece. And we are the most financially destitute county in this state that I know of. And unfortunately, us lodgers, us in the tourism business, we have our hands tied. And I'm hearing people say, well, I don't want to do anything that helps somebody else. I got that so much over the past month, and I'm frankly tired of it. Because I would be honored if my money that I collected and remitted to this county, because it's coming right to this county, there's no admin at all that's coming out of that. It's coming to this county, that it would go to help Dabble, that it would go to help Kamado, because I want to help my community. I'm not interested in taking it for myself, maybe sometimes, but I want fair representation, and that happens through the committee. And that committee is the one that's deciding and bringing to you guys, this is what we should spend it on. We've all gotten together, not in your guys' face, amongst ourselves, this is what we'd like to see. So in terms of the concern on administration, the only administration that we need is if in a year you guys say, you know what, I feel we have this much money that's coming in, I think we can afford to pay somebody part-time. Now they can come in and start implementing things like business licenses, and we can start going after some of these people that are not only not paying lodger's tax, but they're likely not paying gross receipts, and that is hurting our county tremendously. So frankly, I can't go and be in business somewhere else and not pay gross receipts, but somehow in this county, we're letting that go under the rug, and this is a good way to circumvent that. But it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. What we do have to do is we have to pass this so that we can start getting it on the books. We can start collecting that free money from Airbnb and VRBO. We can start going with the honest people, such as myself and other larger lodgers in the county, and then we can take it from there. I agree, if we pass it, we need to do it right, but it doesn't have to happen tomorrow. It can be a work in progress.
How many rooms do you have at this?
I have a total of 10. I have, out at the Y14, I have 4 vacation rentals that are not in reserve. So my vacation rentals and my property out at the Y doesn't pay lodger's tax because there isn't a county-wide one. So my projections, I feel that we can push towards $40,000. That's in my mind calculation. And that's through us doing nothing different other than passing this ordinance and saying to the large lodgers, okay, this is the thing you need to do now.
Okay, one of the attorneys can answer this for me. This money would be sent directly to the county, right?
correct, Mr. Chairman. Unlike gross receipts tax is centrally assessed through the state of New Mexico, so we all know when we pay our gross receipts tax, you actually send it up to the state then hopefully sends it back to the county. Of course, we're disputing that right now, they've shorted us, but this tax would have to be completely administered by the county. So it would take, somebody to contact anyone who's not on Airbnb and VRBO, which, is correct, they will do it automatically, which is very nice, but you still have to contact everyone else and have a public education campaign to let everyone know, yeah, this is what we're doing and this is the rate, and it would be enforced completely by the county, no state involvement.
Okay, Bill, if we passed this and didn't hire anybody, who in your office has time to take care of seeing to it that we get everybody notified, everybody? The only thing I can see happening is we hire somebody to take care of this. Who's gonna have time?
If you were gonna go in depth and do the follow through on the businesses and especially like the monitoring, like hunting lodges and stuff like that, it would definitely take a lot of time. That part would.
Yeah, I'm looking at least a year to find everybody. Because if I'm there housing hunters and I don't know the county passed an ordinance, I'm just gonna go about my business. Until that somebody at the county comes and says, we passed this and you've got to do this. So we have to have a compliance officer.
So under the ordinance, you would have to establish a committee.
Yes.
And the committee would oversee and make recommendations for the funds and how to disperse them. And then you would have somebody in the office who would oversee the disbursement and the follow through of those funds.
Collecting the money.
So it would probably take a part-time position.
Can I make a recommendation, if I may? This is a perfect time to think about who would be on the committee, because those would be volunteers, those would be the ones in each area that would, and this is a lodger's tax, so it's not like the census individuals in houses, so this is it's not quite as burdensome. And so those people from each area kind of know who's in their area and who are hunters and who have Airbnbs and things like that, we know. So a committee are formed with lodgers themselves, business owners, and the public. When you have that mix in every area and they're volunteers, that's not imposing anything extra on the county. Then we bring those numbers, the people who volunteer to you. We're the ones going out and educating, so that's not on your back. And there's enough business-minded people in every area, north, south, east, and west of our county, that want to see our county grow, that want to put back, and that's time is putting back, is volunteering. Also, I want to stress that the only bullet points I didn't get it to take before is what I'll address right now. And this, as Jennifer pointed out, the state level already has a lodger's tax that we're supposed to be doing. They already know what to do, and they are there and they will train us. We can get free training on a state level of what to do for the county, just like you all do on a county level. Each one of you go for training. We can do the same thing for the lodger's tax. And so we don't need to reinvent this wheel. All this is statewide tax already. They already have a system in place. We just need to learn the system. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can start this with a group of volunteers for some of the questions, Commissioner, that you have. And that's one way to start, I believe. Anyway, that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you.
I have one concern, and legal can probably answer it. My understanding is this lodger's tax, no matter how you look at it down the road, the county is going to have to hire somebody to handle all this. That's inevitable. My question is that lodger's tax cannot be used to pay for this county employee, correct?
Yes. The law specifically says that the county may use the proceeds of the tax to defray costs of collecting and otherwise administering the taxes. So basically, probably what you would do is you would take your some portion of collection and, you would bill it towards that department's employee, however you were doing it.
Okay, that was my concern, because it's like, the people there right now, I can say as employees are strapped, we're very busy. And so there is another position that's gonna have to be hired for it, and I'm not sure if the county can handle another position.
Part of my
We have
concern
county
is we want to
funds.
know these numbers and want to do this. In Glenwood, in the past 5 years, we've lost 3 of the 5 motels. And it's not for lack of people coming to the area or wanting to stay in motels. It's the workforce and the aging people that, the younger people don't want to take on businesses. And the 3 motels, they weren't small, they were significant. And I don't think that, we can or can't say that lodgers tax will hurt or help that situation. That's a reality. Our towns are dying. And we're not the destination place. We don't have Elephant Beach Lake. We don't have ski resorts. We have hunting. We have a lot of seasonal things. But even our fishing, the 2013 fire changed a lot of things for us. Shut up with that.
Okay, the advisory board. The advisory board shall make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners concerning the expenditure of the occupancy tax proceeds. So what does that exactly mean, Adrian? It means they can advise us on whether we should pay or whatever's left after we pay for administering this, they get the...
That's generally correct. Usually, the way it operates is, this advisory tax board is, as we said, made up of local business people, and they figure out, hopefully, the best recommendations the purpose of it is to get people to come to Catron County, and their job is this is how we spend money to do that, whether we're putting on a festival or whether we put an advertisement in the New York Times, I don't know, whatever it is they come up with is what they recommend to you to spend the money on.
Mr. Chairman, I might just add that 2 points. Number one, in Sierra County, they've had this lodgers tax for quite some time. They do not have any support or administrative staff to help to administer the tax. Number two, what we do have, the way they do it in Sierra County is they have folks submit applications to the lodgers tax advisory board for projects they'd like to fund. And then the lodgers tax board or the advisory board reviews those projects and then makes a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. So that's just how it operates there. And I'm not making an argument for or against, I just want to make sure to share that.
So the, what's promote? It says that you can advertise, publish, and promote events. What's promote mean? Does it mean you can actually pay for the event? Or does it mean?
Yes, in some circumstances, for instance, Socorro County, the same thing, they don't get very much at all from their lodgers tax, but what they do spend it on, let me say a couple of things. For one, they had a team, like a robotics team, going to Washington DC, and they spent a little bit of money on, come visit Socorro County things for the kids to pass out. Or they also sponsor the Bosque del Apache San Antonio Fair, where the chili festival. So they sponsor that, and that becomes a county event. So that would be promotion as well.
So they give money to do that.
They give money to do that. And you have to find the right way to do it. You can't violate the anti-donation clause still, but you have to you can promote. And there's not very much money in Socorro County that comes in, but it might be different here. I don't know.
And Mr. Chairman, so I can clarify that. It's not they being the advisory board, but it's the Board of County Commissioners that gives the money for those projects and those events. So they simply make the recommendations. They make the recommendations, that's right.
The commission side.
That's right.
2 things. Number one, the clerk's office collects the money, not the commission office. So that's on my office. That's by nature of the law that says that commissioners can't collect money. Commissioners can't collect money. So, and it stipulates that in the ordinance. the clerk's office will collect the money. So that aspect of it's already covered, and that's in my software to have that business license and collect that money. So that's not an issue. Also, I was just thinking about Grant County, because every once in a while I read in the newspaper, they've done their annual distribution of their lodger's tax, and their committee makes recommendations, and I know the last time I wrote, they were distributing $150,000 or something like that to rodeos, to parks, to their downtown projects, to things going on in Bayard, a whole variety of things, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's not just,
But how do you compare apples and oranges?
Well, I mean,
that's exactly why we want to have the investigation of what we're going to. Look at the difference in Grant County, Keith.
Sure.
Don't even think about Silver City itself and the motels and what the city takes from the lodger's tax and the county doesn't get.
But if you have
outside of the
$5,000,
city, and then the Airbnbs and the members' valley, the bed and breakfasts. I mean, you can't compare Grant County to here.
No, but if you have $5,000 to distribute, and then the different things going on, like the 4th of July parade down in Glenwood, or their 4th of July celebration, or the Pie Festival, and all these different groups will say, can you help us promote? And we would ask you to give us $500, or give us $1,000, or whatever. And then they make a recommendation to you guys, and you make the final decision of where that money is distributed.
My question is, many of us have been told that Socorro lodger's tax built the rodeo arena and that duplex as you're going into town, the big complex. I mean, the complex, with the rodeo arena and stuff. Is that true? Did that get built with lodger's tax money?
My understanding is no, that's not. That is done by capital outlay and different grants and lots of different funding
can
sources.
you use it to build projects like that? I didn't read in there where that we could do that. I mean, can we go and take that money and actually build a playground?
I think if you determine that it promotes tourist-related.
You could, yes.
If it promotes tourist-related facilities, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how that would, but I mean, if it does,
Well,
then
like
it's possible.
event centers, that's what, if I.
An event center, right?
Event center things, and so, yeah, it has to promote. But in our rural area, the big thing that we look at, we want to bring more tourism. We want to let people know we have it. We are a destination place when we tell them what we have. They need to know what we have. We love going to Mogollon. We take guests there all the time, for example. There's a Cosmic Center and other things that Mary, that's a great suggestion you did. This is a great destination place for all the cosmic activities we have. We could do that. The committee would even brainstorm, how do we work together at a county level and promote what we have? That would be a committee job. What we want to do is attract more. You guys, we're Guyan County. We're new here since 2012, and even since we've been here, there's still been, we have a hemorrhaging going on. We're bleeding. And even before we got here, we heard stories about the bleeding. We got to stop the bleeding, you guys. We got to work together, and this brings it in, and the committee will help us market, help get the word out, what we have. And like Jennifer pointed out, we don't have to do it all at once, but we need to start somewhere. And even if somewhere today is getting a committee of volunteers who will do and bring in numbers that y'all want, that is starting somewhere and moving forward. But I'm telling you, we need to stop the bleeding, because why aren't our kids here? What's there to do? Why are people leaving? There's no employment. We need to bring employment here. We need to bring opportunities. If we had bringing people here, maybe restaurants could have extended hours and hire more people. And when I spoke on that one CERB report, their report, and that's a national report, it says lodger taxes increase revenues everywhere they are and increase employment opportunities everywhere they are. That, you guys, is a national report that you can search out, and I've got the name of it, that says they took the legwork to take the numbers, comply them, and put out the report. And those is what it said. It has a positive impact on the place it is.
Tom.
As you well know, hunting is probably the #2 economic driver for the county, only behind ranching and livestock. I've got a couple of questions. For instance, like Mick Chappell's Lodge and Jack Diamond's Lodge. These guys are already charging their clients 8.6875% of their, so they're paying between $500 and $600 per hunter gross receipts tax, 3% to the forest and 5.6875 to the county, to the state. If you add on another 2 or 3% to those guys, and then you factor in the landowner permits, anybody that gets a landowner permits, and these hunters are lodging guys that are paying upwards of 14 grand times whatever the amount will be. I think you're going after, keep it at the motel level, leave the dang hunters alone, and like Cliff said, how do you, if he's putting up hunters in his house and feeding them, so who's going to quibble over how much they're charging for the food and how much you're charging for the lodging? It gets to be a nightmare. And I know there are several places that lodge hunters, but I'm just railing to the hunters. I put a lot of hunters in, especially Glenwood and some in Jennifer's, and they take really good care of my hunters, but it all adds up. Add another 2 or 3% here and there, and they've already invested a lot of money. Most of my hunters pay anywhere from $5,500 and up to come with me to hunt, and there's a lot of tax involved, and after a while it all adds up.
I don't have any skin in the game, and it's clear that there are those who are for it and see value, and there are those who don't see value. And so the question has been lodger's tax or no lodger's tax. I'm thinking, is there another solution? And Adrian and I spoke briefly, and there is no law that prohibits a motel owner for assessing a fee. And it doesn't have to be 5%, it's not capped. You can set whatever you want, and you can call it a service fee, a tourism fee, just don't call it a lodger's tax. And all those who want to participate can do so, and they can pool their money, and they can spend the money any way they want. There's no involvement with the commission or with the county. You don't have to pay an employee. It'll all be volunteer. It'll be run by those people who choose to participate. And I just wanted to throw out an alternative idea.
The only thing I would like to say is, I see a lot of hunters that come into the community, and I have not seen one poor hunter that comes from Pennsylvania, New York, Sweden, everywhere. They're coming to hunt here, and they could care less what it costs to hunt here.
That's
They're going to do it.
Jackie, it's baloney. I deal with them personally, and it's harder and harder every year.
You guys want to argue about it?
I'm not going to argue. I'm just going to talk for just a little bit, Tom. But those that I see in the store, and they spend like crazy at all the businesses. So I don't know that $3 on their room would make a big bunch of difference. That's the only thing I have to say.
Dave, Sierra doesn't employ anybody to administer it?
That's correct.
Do we know if they're collecting all they could collect?
I have no idea. How do we ever know that?
I thought the idea of the service fee, I'm gonna have to say I kind of liked. And just because it is volunteer, some of us here, I'll volunteer my time. Jennifer already is doing that. So we could still do a committee, volunteer, go to every part of the county, say, we have this idea and this is what it will do for our county, this is a volunteer thing. I don't know, it's something to entertain. I thought that was a good idea.
I think if you start with that, then people would see if it benefits.
And see what it generates.
And you don't have to wait. If you start with that, then maybe that would give it some credence.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that.
if it doesn't pass or whatever.
One last thing that I wanted to say, I actually am holding 3 more letters. I do feel that the representation of how many people are for this has not been as realistic as what I've seen. Somebody earlier said, oh, you know, all the lodgers in Glenwood aren't for it. I'm holding a letter from Kathy Knapp, who is owner of the Silver Creek Inn, and the Pioneer. She's expressing her support, and I'm just going to put these up here. I've also got a letter from Cresta Terrell, who manages business in Mogollon as well as Glenwood, expressing her support for this, as well as Polly Tipton, expressing her support.
Polly Tipton called me and told me and requested that I speak out for that she was opposed to it. So I'll get clarification on this.
Yeah,
You have
because
a
this was
letter.
last night.
Okay, let me just talk to her again.
Absolutely, I wish you would.
She was adamantly against it.
When did you speak
And
with
one
her,
of the
Becky?
first people that was right before the last meeting.
Yeah, she had Cresta write this, and she said, please call her for clarification. The letter states, I am Polly Tipton, owner of the Double T Homestead in Glenwood. I have asked Cresta Terrell to send this message since I am dealing with chemo side effects and cannot do it myself. I support this tax. I see that it would benefit our town and surrounding areas, so it is a yes from me, dated January 8th.
So there's a lot of questions that are not answered that we need to have answered. So with that being said, I hate having to table it to bring it back up again, but one question that I do have is I've heard from Glenwood and I've heard from Gattle that we had the lodger's tax at one time. And of course, it's we paid it, nobody else did. No, we paid it, nobody else did. Argument back and forth. So the next question I have was that I've looked to see if there is an ordinance that passed the lodger's tax back in the maybe the 80s. If it was passed, did the county ever rescind it? Do you can you get me copies of those? Because I had Lou look for them and she couldn't find them.
I've seen it in the minutes also.
Yeah, because that, you know, if, again, it goes back to passing something that we didn't enforce. If the county did pass the lodger's tax and it hasn't been rescinded, then we have a whole other area that we have to address.
This is all.
Look what you owe in back lodger's tax.
So there's, you know, I hate to move forward without having a decision because this just gets brought up again. But Bucky has a lot of questions that I agree need to be answered. How do we know? I've been told that there's anywhere from 10 to 24 bed and breakfasts in Catron County. How do we, if we do pass it, how do we reach out to them and notify them if we don't have a way to collect, not collect, but document businesses in the county? So.
Well, we don't require permits in the
No.
county, it's on the state level, so therefore we don't know
So we don't know.
right now.
Well, and according,
You can find anything, if
Yeah.
people have a business, they're gonna be advertising.
according to this document, business licensing, no vendor shall engage in the business of providing lodging within that part of Catron County lying outside the unincorporated limits of any municipality who has not first obtained a license as provided in this section. So we're going to require licensing by anybody that rents a room.
But there's no charge for the license.
We're gonna pick on this.
There's no
We
charge
don't pick
for
on
it.
anybody else.
It would just be a documentation.
It would be a document.
So, maybe you're not gonna charge them, but you're gonna require them to be licensed. We don't require anybody to be licensed in this county. That's just another issue.
Or we can just take that out of there.
So, I'm not prepared to take any vote on anything today. We're having a public meeting, this is for the commissioner, or the attorneys. We're having a public hearing. If we set this aside, we don't have to have another public hearing, do we?
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me say this. Pursuant to section 437.7, this board is required to direct the publication of an ordinance and notify the public in that legal notice of the date of the anticipated action on the item. So it would require an additional direction of publication. You wouldn't necessarily have to have a subsequent public hearing. You'd at least have to provide a subsequent public notice at least 2 weeks in advance of the meeting at which this board will consider that action for final action and decide it in that way. So it would require, at very minimum, public notice, if not an additional public hearing.
So we don't have to do it next month, we can do it, say, in 3 or 4 months when we've had the information that answers the questions that have been brought up?
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Or we can just not bring it back up again?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
Mr.
and you're not gonna do that until item C in the action items anyway. Yeah, we don't do that right now.
And since you have to direct the publication again, I mean, I'm certainly not suggesting how the commission should vote, but if it's something that you would like to reconsider, it would probably be best to just not adopt the ordinance and then republish later once you have the facts that satisfy you.
My
If ever.
question then is, how are we getting these facts? Because I remember, this is my 3rd meeting that we've addressed this. Bucky's asked the same questions. How are we getting these facts? What do we need to do in order to either yay or nay? Don't look at me.
Well, we're the board that gets to decide this. And it's not my idea. If this were my idea, I might go do the legwork. But this is not my idea. When I have an idea and I want to do something, I try to convince everybody what I want. But I got to get 2 of these people to vote with me. At least one of them, and I'd rather have both of them. But I have a lot of questions on this that aren't answered. I'm not prepared to take a vote on something because my vote would not be an educated vote. And I'm just requesting somebody bring me some numbers. I don't know who's going to do that. We need to, tell Bill to go get the numbers. I don't know. Mary, go ahead.
Could the commission pick a couple business owners, or they don't even have to be business owners, but from each community, representatives from each community, and ask them if they would be on this advisory board and have them work on it?
I think that that's a flaw, because I think that the people that are against the lodger's tax or for the lodger's tax are gonna not feel comfortable or feel like there was transparency in the numbers. I really think that somebody out of, I hate to say this, but I think somebody from the state or somebody from the county government has to go to the pains to collect this information and find out for sure. That's the only way we get an educated.
So you had said that the state has now implemented a lodger's tax across the state, correct?
As of the 1st of the year.
So with that information that they have, because they're going to be collecting, and they may not have all the information for a couple of months, but that's a way to get.
Well, and I'll be honest though, the only way that I knew about that as a lodger is I saw it on the news.
I hadn't even heard about it.
Yeah, and I, like I said, obviously that's new news for all of us, so I don't feel that that is an accurate method, but what I will say is, if you just go by the law of averages in terms of dollars, I have a motel in reserve. It is the smallest one. This is the least amount that you can expect to receive from any of the larger motels. That to me is a pretty good disclosure, because I am willing to say, listen, here are my numbers. This is what I do. You're not going to get that disclosure from anybody else, but I assure you it's probably a lot more than I'm doing.
I would like to say that I'm not, the state tax, when they came out, the thing that came out from the governor's office was in support of counties imposing the state taxes, the lodger's tax. I didn't see where it said they were going to impose a state tax. I'll have to look at that.
New Mexico Governor Lujan Grisham has signed a bill that would increase the number of vacation rentals in the state that are required to collect lodging taxes from guests.
That's separate from
This
the
goes
bills.
into effect January 1st, 2020, closes a loophole that exempted short-term rental hosts offering fewer than 3 rooms from collecting a local lodging tax. That is what she signed.
And that's House Bill 106, that's what we're discussing right now. It doesn't, as far as I know, it doesn't do a state tax, it closes the Airbnb
It closes
loophole
the loophole.
for local governments.
So,
Yeah, it's not a new state tax.
Correct.
I'm
aware of.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because that would be, that's big.
So, and that's the problem I see, if we were to pass this, we're still gonna have to go out and find all these people and collect from them. That's why I say we're going to.
Well, Keith took that off my back, son.
You get through the license, I do the collection. That's what it says.
But this says they send their payment to the county manager.
It should be
somewhere.
It's just county
Yeah,
clerk.
somewhere I read the clerk. I read the clerk.
Yeah,
It's the county clerk. The county
it
manager
should come.
can't collect money, that's
Yeah.
the
It can
The
be.
county manager will collect money if anybody wants to get it. We can talk.
But I guess that's another question. The clerk is going to collect it, but the clerk's job isn't to go out and make sure everybody's complying.
Just to make sure, no, I want to clarify this we can, so the collection process that the clerk is referring to, which it can go through the clerk's office for the collection of fees, or it can go through the manager's office as well. The lien process goes through your office, which is looking at section B. The actual lien process, the statutory part required.
Right,
Yeah.
but the only two officers in county government that collect money are the
Clerk
and the treasurer.
What are you
Not
looking
the
for?
commission. They can't collect.
I'm not sure if
The solid waste does because it's an enterprise fund, it's a separate type of deal.
If it comes to us, we automatically direct it to the
Exactly.
treasurers.
Well, yeah, no matter what, it goes to the treasurers,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you guys can move on and this doesn't go on forever.
You're
And
a
I'm
big
sure
part
you
of
want that
this.
to. What would you, the commissioners, think of, there's several of us who are willing to do some court work and then make sure that each area, other people form a committee and make sure it's well balanced and do the footwork that you're asking and the numbers you're requesting. That's a place to start, and it's not a paid position. And it will give you the numbers you're asking for and requesting so this can move on. What is your thought on that, commissioners?
My spot on it is that I want some time to talk to some of these other county commissioners, and I want some time to look and investigate how we might do this more in the government side. How do we find out, how do we do this? I want to know more.
Okay.
And I do not, I don't mean to be rude, and, I guess the best thing to do is the next time I even think about running for an office, you guys tar and feather me and send me to the office. I don't, Jennifer, I really have a lot of respect for all the research and the work that you do. And I listen to you, I want you to know that. And I listen to you too, man, but I don't want to, I personally, I'm just one guy. All you got to do is get these other two people to go along, but I don't want a committee to go out there and do the slave work right now.
And I'm just addressing what I heard from you guys. I'm addressing what I heard from you guys. You want more numbers, you want more information.
I do, but not that way.
That is what I stood up and said, we can look and see what we potentially have.
You can argue and you can waste wind
And I'm
on me
not
all day
arguing.
long, forgive me, but that's what I feel. I said, I don't want a committee or a volunteer
And
group
that's
to go out and get this information. I want some time to consider things and consider and to investigate myself. So between now and the next commission meeting, Amanda, you can come back here and give me a bad time if I don't have something to do, okay?
Yes, Adrian, if we were wanting to put together a committee, something like that's not on the agenda, could we do that?
Next meeting,
We'd have to do it at the next meeting.
to form a formal advisory committee. I mean, you could ask people right now if they'd like to do it, but to be formal, that's what it would require.
Get that clarified. Becky?
I think we should research out the state implementation of the lodger's tax as of the first, because when I was up at the DFA training, they brought that up, and Joyce and I, we came back and they talked about it, and they talked about how that the state is gonna impose this January 1st, so that it just makes it easier on the counties just to follow their ordinance. And so we were under the impression that it's a done deal, but there's conflicts
That
here,
may
so.
be, I don't know.
But that's but we were under the impression, being told up there at the DFA, which is Department of Finance, training, that this was gonna take place January 1st, and anybody that had an ordinance in place already would just have to adapt it to the states. And so it was like, it sounded like it was across the board,
That maybe is not House Bill 106. It may have been something else that I'm not aware of.
Tax restructuring, you might have followed.
Could have been that, that's
like-
2,000 pages thick.
Yeah.
I was just telling them when we were at the DFA how, when they said that this, on the state level, that as of the first, that lodger's tax was gonna be implemented across the board, and so.
And I don't think it's the tax that's implemented, it's the ability to tax. They're saying, I
Right, but
didn't
that's
read it that
that's
way.
not how we were told at
Right.
the meeting, I'm just
So-
saying we were
so we
told
need
by
to
a
research
DFA
this.
agent.
I do think, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, that this needs to be researched more. And I can try to come up with some numbers, and I can get hold of some people around the community and communities and see whether or not we can actually get some viable numbers for you. Anybody here that's willing to be on that can send me an email that you would like to be on that committee. I'll be glad to set up something, and we'll try to do a review for you.
So, for the commission to make an informed decision, you guys talked about several items that you would like to know more about. And if you go down that road, Bill, is there any way to formalize what you all are, what types of information you're looking for you to make that informed decision, whether it's the next commission meeting or the following one or what have you? So, going down that road, I think you gotta have some sideboards of what that group
Well, I
is
think
gonna
one of
do.
the first things I'm gonna do is get hold of managers that are in counties that are already doing this and finding out what kind of roadblocks they ran into and how they found that out, because I don't believe in reinventing the wheel.
Right. And hopefully those address what Bucky and Cliff, their questions were.
Yeah, I wanna know how much we can potentially generate. And I need to know what it's gonna cost the county to implement this. Because I believe any county that's got somebody on board that's seeing to it that it's getting collected, is not collecting near what they could collect. So, that's just the way I look at it. Take a bathroom break, Bucky? Let's take a break.
Mr. Chairman, if you want to close the public hearing,
How do we do that? Just close it?
just close it.
Close this public hearing. We'll take a quick break. All the meetings are over. We'll move on to action items. Consideration of approval of resolution 037, 2020. Appointment of chairperson and vice chairperson. Anybody wants to talk about it? I'll make a motion, we appoint Bucky as the chairman.
Mr. Chairman, that's what I was gonna, I'll make the motion that we leave it exactly like it is. I think Anita, are you the vice chair? How would you feel about that?
I was gonna second that before you open your mouth. It was your last, silly last year.
Yes, well, you know,
Have a little control your last year. Slam that gavel down.
these people are ready to shoot me already. I'll leave it up between you two guys. I'm really happy with the job Cliff is doing and you're doing, and I would encourage you guys in the next go round to really, Anita, you need to be the chair in the next coming years. I'm good with the way things are, really I am, and thank you for that consideration, but I can do just as much damage as a commissioner as I can as chair.
What do you want to do, Anita?
Well, do I have to rescind my second? I did second it. He just talked louder than I did.
Okay, I made a motion. If Anita, make Bucky the chairman, Anita seconded it.
No, that I No sandbagging.
Oh, we can always, it doesn't mean it's done, you guys can both vote against it. We got a motion and a second, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay, we need vice chairman now. I nominate Anita vice chair.
I second that.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Well, Bucky, in your last year, you get to swing the gavel then.
Well, starting the next meeting, right?
No, it starts right now.
No, last year it started the next meeting.
How do we do that, next meeting?
Commissioners, it's up to you entirely.
You wanna wait till
Next
meeting?
meeting, all right. All right, that motion carries.
Yeah, just for so that everybody knows, the chairman, a lot of times, it's not an easy thing, and Cliff came on as a newly elected commissioner, and he really done a fantastic job being the chairman and scrutinizing things. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate Anita and her investigation of things and staying on top of things and the way she makes sure that your all's interests are held here. I'm really proud of the fact too that I think a couple of terms, my late father and Anita's late father served together, and I think, not mistaken, the reserve school district almost threw Cliff's dad and my dad out of school for being such nice boys. So I'm real proud to serve with you. Great job.
All right, we'll go on to consideration of approval of ordinance number 2020-01, authorizing industrial revenue bonds, Borderlands Wind Project Series 2020, maximum aggregate of 200 million, finance wind energy generation facilities, and authorizing all actions necessary to effectuate the project.
Mr. Chairman, there's been a lengthy process. We've gone through the negotiations with the schools up in Camado for the payment in lieu of tax payment to the county and to the schools. We've gotten resolutions from both this board and that board regarding that distribution of the full payment. This board has directed the publication of the title and general subject matter of the ordinance. It's held its public hearing earlier in this meeting in which it heard positive comments in favor of this project. It also received a question with respect to where this electricity would go. And now this matter is before the board for consideration or approval.
This is the first time I've had to deal with the IRB process, and I thought it was gonna be pretty easy. However, I did not realize how hard and frustrating it was gonna be working with the Camado school system. It was probably it was more frustrating than working with the senior program in that fiasco. And I made sure the school board members know how disappointed I was with how they handled the whole thing, and I hope if we ever have to go through this again, that we still have, those kinds of complications. And I hope it's not that way across the state with other counties and school systems. But with that said, I'll make a motion to approve.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll second that. I hope that this Borderlands companies make a liar out of me, because as you know, I was not a proponent of this. I went ahead and give you the thumbs up in this, but I'm really concerned for this new green energy. I think I'll always have in the back of my mind with the coal fire generators, as clean as they are today, and as many families as they feed, as good a jobs as they provide. We have 350 years of low-grade coal in the Tomato area, what could have been done in our county. But good luck to you. Treat our county people good, do a good job.
Yes, sir.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 2020-01, authorizing revenue bonds. All in favor?
Aye.
And
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, because this is an ordinance, we need a roll call, so District 1.
District 1, aye.
District 2, aye.
District 3, aye.
Motion carried. Consideration of approval of ordinance 2020-02 lodgers tax ordinance. Now, from speaking with the attorneys, cleanest way to do this, I'm gonna make a motion. Do we vote to kill this, or is that how I do that?
You can either vote to it, or if there's no motion, then it just dies.
Just let it
If you
die.
want to make a motion, or
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
For this to come back later, if we can get some numbers, the cleanest way to do this is to get it off the table, kill it today, and then everything will be clean coming back. So is that the right way to make the motion?
Robert's Rules doesn't like negative motions, but they are perfectly allowable. So, I think that's fine.
Make a motion to disapprove.
There you go.
Disapprove. I got a second from Bucky.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion.
Is that roll call also, since it's an ordinance?
No, because they weren't voting to approve it.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think it makes no difference.
All right, thank you.
Should.
Oh, you know what, Mr.
I do it every time.
Yeah, so the clerk would like a roll call, please. So if you would.
District 1, aye.
District 2, aye.
District 3, aye.
So, Mr. Chairman, the next two items, items D and E, the consideration and approval of the indenture and lease agreement, are corollary documents that go along with the issuance of the bonds. So the way this works is the county holds paralegal title to the project, and then we lease that project out to the to Borderlands, and then the indenture relates to the provision of security for the payment of the principal and interest on the redemption price of the bonds. So these are just documents that have to be approved, given the approval of the IRB ordinance.
Can they vote on both of them together?
Yes,
Do they need to be
absolutely you can.
Okay. Items D and E.
I move to approve items D and E, the approval of the Borderlands Wind indenture and the lease agreement.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
We got a motion and a second. Approve both these items. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all very much for coming. We appreciate you being here to answer the
Dave,
questions.
thank you for your help. Bill, thank you. Commissioners, thank you. We really appreciate it.
Think we're all-
Looking forward to being here. So, thank you.
Safe travels.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Get me in mind for an alligator hunt.
Will do.
Okay. consideration of approval of 2021 Fund Act grant applications.
That is the fire, it's updating the automatic,
No, this is.
oh, on the Fund Act, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself on this one. The Fund Act are the EMS applications for their money for next year for 2021. We need to have them approved. I haven't received them all, so we're getting approval in advance, and then the commission chair will need to come in and we'll go over them, and then we can approve them and sign them.
I thought the deadline was in December.
We usually have them, turn them in the end of December, but because they had their EMS directors meeting scheduled for January 14th, I told them that they had to have them there or I was going to chop off legs. We need to have them ready. Because I have to send them by the 21st at the very latest,
I move to approve the Fund Act grant applications with the stipulation that the chair review these for final signature when the EMS directors meet on the 14th of January.
So you would need me to sign them and review them?
As soon as I get them, I should have them all on the 14th, and then whatever I'll get with
back
them.
until the 21st or 22nd.
I can come down and meet with her.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
And Linda, is it the actual chair or is it just a commission?
It does say the chair.
It does say the chair, so it has to be the chair.
But you could get signatures prior to reviewing.
Okay, because I only have 2 right now. I only have 2 of them right now.
But he can sign.
But he can sign them. Yeah, and I can come to you wherever you're at.
In Mexico, yeah.
She wants to go on vacation.
I'm not going to Mexico.
But they're saying that you can sign them before you.
Vice Chair?
Yeah, I'll sign
And
them.
if you need somebody to review them, I can review them
Yes.
with her.
Okay.
Yes,
We can do it that way.
All right.
We can do that.
You need me to sign them today?
All I have is 2 right
Okay.
now, and
I'll
then.
sign both of them.
Okay.
Why don't you call and ask if the vice chair can.
There's no reason the vice chair should be
Yeah.
able to.
I was gonna say, that's designation,
That's
that's.
the law.
I didn't think
Yeah,
this was
that's
a
fine.
big deal, but.
Okay.
Doesn't matter what the signature line says, that's the
Okay.
authority.
Okay.
Because it's not gonna be doable.
Right, okay, all right, so I'll make sure.
Tell them the chair got lost in Uncle Bill's and nobody found it. Oh, those good old days.
We have got a motion to approve Fund Act grant applications. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. Need a second.
Motion and a second to approve. Chair review, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Direction of staff to publish title and general summary of Freedom Ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, just as an introduction, I believe that we had, this board had addressed this last year and did not adopt it. And actually at that point said, maybe let's discuss it some more in January. And so it is on the agenda to, if you would like to go to public hearing, you would, direct staff to publish the title and general summary. And then 2 weeks, it'll be published 2 weeks prior to the next meeting where we would have a public hearing on it and consider the ordinance. And certainly up to this board, we've discussed it a fair amount. There's some really great ideas because of it, but it also does put us in a precarious situation. So there's a lot of things to talk about, but there you go.
Mr. Chairman, I want to give, because Mr. Garden, one of your constituents, prepared this draft ordinance for your consideration, you might want to give him an opportunity to present this draft ordinance as well.
Got it in here?
It's in your, it's right after the ordinance for the lodger's tax. There you go, Cliff.
All right, Steve, you're on.
Well, I guess I better make a place for me then, huh? The idea of this ordinance came from my desire to be free. The reason I came to Catron County is because it is the home of the county independence movement. There has been since the 90s when Anita and Bucky's father were sitting in the commission. The ordinance that was made back in those days is on the very back page. And this is an emergency ordinance that was made in 1991. Ordinance of the Catron County Commission adopting an emergency ordinance to protect the public peace, that's a misspelling there, general welfare, health, and safety of the citizens of Catron County from violations of the constitutional rights of the citizens. Reaffirming, number 2, reaffirming the protections for private property as provided in the 5th and 14th Amendment to the Constitutions and the Civil Rights Act. Number 3, reestablishing the definition of private property protected by the Constitution and the Civil Rights Act as defined in the current federal case law and regulation. Just a note on that, that would be 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, which forbids with criminal sanctions 2 or more people from coming to your property and making you do anything that has anything to do with any color of law from Washington, D.C. Probably a lot of people don't understand that, but we're going to have a meeting after this meeting later to explain any of this that you don't understand. And requesting that the legislature of the state of New Mexico act similar legislation to codify within state law such statutes and regulations as enacted by this county ordinance. So, and it goes on. And then before that, there's another ordinance just before that, also from the same time frame, that brings in 18 U.S.C. 18 U.S.C. 245, which establishes on a federal level the ability, the sanctity of the counties to make ordinances for their own people that supersede state and federal law. Anytime that the county does not have an ordinance for a particular thing, in a vacuum of legality, the state applies, then the federal applies. So Catron County, back in the 1990s, decided to make these ordinances ensconced in this county so that you can take your grievances to Clay Atwood, the judge here, and say, okay, I want to bring these people to task in front of a jury under 18 U.S.C. 1983, which was another one of this was the Civil Rights Act of 1871. So all of this was already on the books in Catron County when Anita's father and Bucky's father were sitting in these chairs. What they didn't have, and what I found out through I spent some time with Hugh B. McKean and some other people that had been through the legal quagmire of state and federal courts. And of course everybody knows now that there's no way to win in state or federal courts because the rules that they apply are not your rules. They're what's called legal fiction. So what I did with this ordinance is I brought the understanding of what a legal fiction is, what a person is, who the people are, and the power that the people have. And what I'm here to tell you is that although it looks grim, it looks like the powers of evil have surrounded us and that there's nothing that we can do. But I can tell you this, the Luciferians have no creativity. We are the children of the Creator. We're the ones that have the power. They only have the power to destroy. So what this ordinance is doing is giving the people of Catherine County the ability to come to their commission, to come to their courts, to come to their sheriff and say, we want some justice in Catherine County. So I don't know if any of you are aware of what's happening in Virginia now, but they're going on a big gun grab in Virginia, and Virginia has done this. 90 counties in Virginia have already been sanctuary counties, Second Amendment sanctuary counties. But not only that, they decided that, like us, many years ago, there was no teeth in our ordinance. So they have developed militias. Now, my ordinance takes it one step past that, well, 2 steps actually. First of all, the sheriff is the chief executive officer of the county. Nothing happens here without his consent or by his default. So he can either act or not act. And like the chairman, the commissioner here, has been in this position where he has been overrun by federal agents threatening to throw him in jail. But he did not have a posse behind him, and he did not have a militia. So what this all is taking the laws that are already on the books, the 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, 245, and the 42 U.S.C., which is civil, the 1983, 1985, and 1986, and I've added the RICO acts onto this, because virtually our attorneys can tell you that any time that you have a violation of any of these other ordinances, you also have a RICO. So the people of Catherine County, within the 10 pages of this ordinance, can find relief, remedy, for the sins that have been perpetrated upon them by federal and state actors that do not have authority to do it in the first place. See, most people don't know what color of law means. You know, our attorneys could tell you, color of law is a semblance. It's rules and procedures and policies that these bureaucrats promulgate to come out and try to put on you. And most people don't know that you have remedy, immediate remedy. You have a sheriff. You have a judge. Now all we need is a posse and a militia. And some people with spines. Now this is one of the problems that the chairman himself mentioned, is that people are not what they were back in the 90s. When this came out, people were red hot mad. If you have ever read the land use plan, the comprehensive land use plan from starting in 1992, and the last amendment was in 2012. But it starts out just like this back here. It's an emergency. They're overrunning our land, they're stealing our water, they're shutting down our industries, they're doing all these things that are wrong, and we know they're wrong, but we feel helpless because in order to do anything about it, we're sucked into Washington, D.C. or Santa Fe. And unfortunately, there is no remedy in Washington, D.C. And now we just had a contingency go to Washington, D.C. So they know that. At a gut level, they know that there's nothing that can be done by going outside of our county. And the lovely lady in the back, she's gone now, the one that said we just need to work together. That is exactly what we need to do. And when I first mentioned this, there were several objections. One of the first ones was Commissioner Hand. She said, well, how about all of this money? How about the PILT? How about all of this federal money? How are we going to replace that? And the way I think that we do that is, as this lovely lady in the back said earlier, we come together. We learn, we think about, okay, we got $660,000 in Pilt at 25 cents an acre that the federal government is paying us in lieu of taxes. So we take that land and we see how much of that is available for ranching, how much of that is available for outfitters, how much Commissioner Allred mentioned the lack of campgrounds here. You know, we were talking earlier about bringing in industry and making another tax for that. All we need to do is make a better mousetrap and people will come. People want to come to a bastion of freedom like this. They want to be able to go and four-wheel or horseback or you know, we have all of this land that could be used. And I was just talking with John about this, because I know that there's a whole bunch of federal and state employees that would love to live here in Catron County for the rest of their days, and maybe even bring their families. And there's so much that the Forest Service does that is good that we don't need to throw away. But we could use people like John to say, hey, you know, this is where we need to go. This is what we need to do. You know, this is what I wanted to ask Commissioner Allred about. How many more of these trails like he was talking about are there that we could build? So the money is an important thing, but I know that in this county there's people that are brilliant, people that have been in business all their life, people that are educated. And I know that if we come together and actually try to do this, we'll succeed. And the good news is that in the end, God's people do win. And we could be that bastion of freedom in this county should we desire to step out on this diving board and take a plunge. Because it's a big one, and our attorneys have mentioned, as a matter of fact, they brought up what they call, is it stare decisis or res judicata, this Rio Arriba thing. Do they call that stare decisis?
Yes.
Okay. They say it's already been decided that the counties can't do this. But when I looked at the ordinance, what I found out is that, yes, we can do it. That was the section 245 that I mentioned in the very back. Counties do have the power to do this. Where Rio Arriba ran into a problem was that they were trying to take the money for it. And the state didn't want nobody taking their money. So the difference in ours is that we're talking about a common law court. We're not talking about an admiralty court where the everything is money. We're talking about equity and law, reality. God bless you. So, you know, it's apples and oranges. That case is not res judicata, except for the fact that we do have the authority to make any ordinance that we want. And you have commissioners here that are begging the people, please come tell me what you think. You know, I mean, this is such an unusual situation to have three people like this that are willing to listen, that are willing to really think, that are really, and as a matter of fact, the chairman said I would be willing to go to jail over this if the people wanted it. So, I mean, that's a heavy step. And that's probably enough of my BS, unless somebody has some questions. I guess that's that. Oh, I forgot to tell you, we're going to have a meeting after this meeting about this. I didn't know that we were going to discuss this today. Meet in the parking lot.
I'll just reiterate what I said the last time it was brought up. I certainly agree with what you're saying, and I think that would be a great thing for the county, because that is what the county stands for. However, with that said, the county is reliant on state and federal money. Help payments, secure rural schools, EMS Fund Act money, fire funds from the state fire marshal, capital outlay, wolf compensation for depredation would stop, NRCS conservation money, FSA money that helps with the wolf depredation costs, those are gone. we can't even come together on the lodger's tax. How can we come together on supporting the county in what the services that we currently offer? So my question to you is, how do we pay for the road? How do we pay for the ambulance services or the fire department services? How do we keep the county employees employed if we're not getting the money that is provided from the state and the federal government?
Well, I say we develop alternate income streams, revenue streams.
How?
Well, first of all, by deregulation. When you look at the forest, the timber industry, it was destroyed. It wasn't decimated. It was completely destroyed by federal regulations under color of law. And that's exactly the ordinance that your father passed back in '90, color of law.
If the county passes this, we don't have any jurisdiction over the Forest Service to tell them that they have to deregulate the timber. That's where I'm having
Yes, we
a
do.
hard time.
Yes, we do. We absolutely have you have greater authority than the Forest Service.
Hey, we can get rid of the wolves too.
Yeah, you're right. These gentlemen are both right. You get what it.
Wolves cost us?
Oh, I know full well how much they cost us.
I'm not willing to lose my job.
What good are the services if we don't have our ranchers and the hunting? You know, the wolves are gonna destroy us, for damn sure. And when the ranchers go, you lose that tax base. You're gonna lose everything if we don't, like this gentleman says. I think we're resilient enough to make enough money amongst ourselves and our local businesses to support our county. And you know, I'm not much on the feds anyway, but I think Steve here, I believe it's Steve.
Yes, sir.
Has a darn good idea. And Coy Griffin, he was all excited about, you know, the county getting enough signatures, passing a law where the county took it on themselves. Then I understand the lawyers here discouraged that movement. And, you know, Coy is a homegrown son and helps us a lot. But if we don't take things back into our hands like Bucky's dad and Anita's dad, you know, they say, well, the things are different now. I think it's getting worse. It's not different. I think our commissioners that we've got now have a chance to help us.
So the other thing I would say is this ordinance, it gives you the ability to act, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to act. It's got something, you just got it in your pocket. And so we could take some time and answer these questions in detail. And then when we have all the answers, when we know how that money is going to be replaced exactly, then we take action. But just because the ordinance is passed, it doesn't mean that we have to go out tomorrow and kick out the Forest Service.
So, the county, Ketron County has always stood by the Second Amendment. We've always been a sanctuary county from even before everybody else took credit for it. Well, because it was a big thing in the last legislative session, the sheriff's office got a line item veto. So they were without money because of that. If we pass this, are they gonna start saying no? And how much does the county, what's the county budget?
I really, as a manager, would like to know how it's going to be. And Tom says we'll get together and we'll raise the money. Will we raise, do we have the wherewithal to raise $4.5 million of operating capital every year?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But you're saying take over the forest land. See, you're saying. So when you're talking about militia, you're saying basically you're saying we are going to exist without the framework of the United States. We're basically saying we're a sovereign county, nation, whatever you want to say. That's basically what the document says.
Yes.
And so then you have to get together and say, okay, let's get it done. I just want to point out one thing. There's 3,000 people in here. If you could even get 5% of the people to come here to a meeting and say, we're willing to do that, to stand behind that and do that, and that's 5 to 10%. 10% is 300 people. Can you get 300 people that are say, we'll lay everything else on the line and we'll draw our guns and we're behind you, Steve? I think that's what you have to do before it has to be looked at legitimately by the commissioners. I think you're putting the cart before the horse. If there's enough people here that really want to do that, then I'm probably with you. I mean, you and I have talked before, but it's not up for me or for the commissioners. I mean, obviously, I'm just the manager. It's up to them. But you're telling them to make a decision before you get the popular uprising. And if it's that bad, then you should get that popular uprising. Where's your 300 to 500 people that are going to say, by golly, we'll put it on the line, we'll show you how we're going to raise $4.5 million, and we'll run this county. And you can say you don't need $4.5 million, and that may be true. But there needs to be a plan of action and the popular uprising before something like that and excuse me, Mr. Chair, for speaking out of space. That's just my opinion.
Well, I think that's a good opinion, Bill. I really do, and I think it's critically important that the people do get behind freedom, or they're going to be forever in slavery. I mean, we have, you know, the commissioners in the 90s saw this coming. They knew it, and they provided an escape mechanism for us. We just didn't know how to apply it at that time.
Well,
there was a lot of people that didn't understand what all these regulations were, how insignificant they are. You know, and it goes back to the business. You get the outfitters back in business, you get the farmers back in business, you get the timber industry back in business, and the money is generated, Bill. It's automatic. It's easy. And that's what I think the commissioners tried to do.
I disagree with that, but that's a side issue. The main issue with me, and mine is just an opinion, mine is not a vote. The main issue with me is the populist movement.
No.
Now, obviously, whenever the populace of the county.
No, I'm saying, the United States was 3%. 3% of the people in the United States took part in the Revolutionary War. You know, I mean, it was a minority. It's always been a minority. The majority, this is why we have a republic rather than a democracy.
That's why I told you a minority. Get a minority of the people to show up.
Well, yeah, that's what we're working on. Okay. And you know, God bless you people. I really appreciate you giving us this podium. I mean, to speak about this,
well,
because it needs to be.
This is actually an action item, and I'm speaking out of place, and it's you guys' turn.
Appreciate your opinion.
My apologies.
You all know about the meeting coming up in Las Cruces Saturday with Angus McIntosh, who's really done a lot of research, and I think it's going to make a big difference down the road on these allotment owners. They've got a split estate right to the grazing and the land, and it's going to make a big difference once this movement gets going and these allotment owners get out of these so-called privilege permits. They actually have a right, and Angus has done a lot of work and got the legwork done, and I think, you know, if we don't keep our ranchers in business here on the U.S. Forest Service, this county's got to go down the tubes anyway.
The county is a business, so let's get the business plan. It's a requirement.
Well, how much more money would you have if all you did was get rid of the damn wolf? You know, if that's all you did, how much more money would you have if you just did that?
Actually, not that much. I'll tell you why, Tom. Because several years ago, we lost cattle AUMs. That's the tax for this county. The wolves cost the individuals a lot of money. And I don't want to start an argument, but something that struck home with me was last year when we first started these commission meetings, we had the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service here. And I done something I should have never done. I was thinking that we could move forward with a new process and a memorandum of understanding, and maybe there was a lot of people here that really have been beat up by these damn things, lost a lot of money. And Commissioner Snyder said something, and it stuck with me for a year now. He said, I was sheriff, and all of these guys wanted me to come and take care of the problem. And he said, I looked at him and told him, it's your problem, you take care of it. So this government you guys advocate, I sat and watched the potential of $72 million a year go down the river. And a ragtag group of liberals down in a small town shut all that down, took it away from them. 10 years. The AWSA Act took all the money and funding away. And the truth of the matter is you guys can sit here and say, well, we can raise this money. No problem. We'll start logging. We'll increase the number of cows. But you know, it's easy to talk about it. It's another thing to do it. You know, it's easy to talk about it, and it's another thing to do. So you guys have a percentage of probably at best, maybe 1% of you in this county that support this. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say, yeah, I would say
Or
somewhere
less.
around there.
Or less.
Yeah.
But we got the other 2,900 people to look after.
Precisely.
And we've got a lot of infrastructure and roads and investments and monies. And, you know, right now the way I feel about it is I admire you guys for having the independence and the freedom. You talk about the Revolutionary War all you want to. How many hundreds of years ago was that? Times have changed.
Same people, Bucky, we're fighting the same
No,
people.
we're not. It's not the same people. There's more sophisticated people. There's people in Washington that'll come out here and fight the hell out of you guys. There are attorneys. There are all kinds of people. When was the last time you guys were in Senate? At the legislation, lobbying this? How many senators, how many representatives did you go up there and try to get on your side? When was the last time you were up there? Walked around, took a look around at the people, the lobbyists, the individuals all involved in that. Anita and I have been up there. You know, come on. I admire you. I admire your independence. I respect you for having another try. But for me right now, I'm going to live with the current government that we have. I don't like the governor, but she is our governor, and I'll respect her. I don't like our two senators. They won't come to our county, but they are our senators, and I'll keep fighting that fight for you guys. I'll keep going, and I'm not going to change my mind. I'm not going to support your ordinance today. I'm not going to support your ordinance while I'm in office. So I want you to know that. I'm being honest with you. I don't mean to be disrespectful to you guys. Y'all are my friends. I respect you and like you. But what you're wanting to do is just not realistic. It's not going to happen. We have to fund this county. We have to fix roads. We have a certain amount of infrastructure and people that depend on us, and we have to do that. And that's a reality. You guys can go out there all day long and talk Agenda 21 and Y2K and all this other stuff. But we have responsibilities here, and I'm going to stick with the route that we're going.
But we're looking at reality, Bucky. We've got a governor that's appointed a game commission, and now they've swayed the game department over into cooperating with the
Tom, you're not going to sit out there and do that to me, and I'll tell you why you're not going to do that. Because you're one of the guys.
Well,
and a lot of
I'm
other
trying to
people.
explain my position.
I know you are,
I'm not
but
getting on
she
you,
is our
right?
governor, and that's the way it is. And people are responsible. If you don't like the way the elections go, if you don't like the way they turn out, do something about it.
We're
Get out there
trying,
and
we're
work hard.
trying, but we gotta have some support.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it
We
in
haven't
the
seen any
cabinet
support
entity.
from
I haven't seen it in
elected
some of the
officials.
things I've been involved in. I'm sorry. People are apathetic.
There's 6 wolf sites on Facebook, and there's so many people that animal rights, tree huggers, bunny huggers, we're outvoted, we're outmoneyed. You know, our backs are against the wall, like the Stayburgers, myself, our backs are against the wall.
You just got up and said that money for the county would be no problem, so get up and
No, I'm saying that it can be done, but we've got to have support from the elected officials. And that's hard because we're outvoted. And nothing against you, I know that, you know, you're for what's right, but,
It's a frustrating thing.
Yeah.
The most frustrating thing in the world.
well, it's more frustrating when you and your family are going down the tubes, or your friends and neighbors are going down the tubes, and Cliff's been there. You know, he told them damn semis, he held the cattle up when they was hauling the diamond bar livestock off, and, you know,
I'd rather not get into that one. But I took some stands when I was sheriff. I got no support.
Did you ask for support? Did you ask for a posse?
No. No, because I didn't want to start a war. And
Discretion, yes.
that's what this ordinance would do. And we can pass this ordinance and we can die or go to prison, because the United States of America is not going to let us do this and go away. So the county as a whole, the people of this county as a whole would have to be willing to take this stand. Our government was founded on freedom, and we've given up those freedoms over many, many years. There's a book I read quite a bit that compares people to sheep, and that's exactly right. We follow along and we follow along, and then we get in the position we're in now, where the government is taking people's property, and because they have a law that says we have to protect certain animals. But the county's not going to fix that problem by doing this, I don't think. I mean, it would fix something, all right. But I don't think it'd fix the problem, because I just don't see. I think Americans think they're free, they just don't know they're not. And one of these days, it'll come to a head. We were founded on a Republican form of government, where everybody gets to have input. That gets kind of hard when Washington, D.C. is so far away. And you know, it just strikes me as kind of odd. We don't like the way the government's run, but we come to the government to try to get them to support us in this deal. Because I don't know what difference it would make if we passed this ordinance, except we would all be, you know, I know what it would be like in the media. I'd be called a white supremacist and all kinds of goofy things.
You'd be a legend.
You know, they'd call me all kinds of things I'm not, and then I'd have to defend myself and try to explain that I'm just trying to uphold the freedoms of this nation. And nothing would get solved, except we would all look like a bunch of radicals when they got through with this. And I got elected to try to run this government properly and not become a radical, you know, and that's what I would become if I passed this. And it's not that I disagree with it particularly. I think it's coming to this at some point, but I don't think the American people or the people in this county are ready to go there. I think they're all happy to just leave us alone. You know, the people that are losing their cattle to these wolves, they're directly affected. They understand. But there's 10 others out there that don't understand. And what happens is the powers that be are not going to allow the truth to really come out, you can't even get the media to come and talk to a rancher about his losses hardly. You know, everything you see is on the other side. And that's exactly what you get when Catherine County took this stand. We would just all be painted as a bunch of nuts. Even though we're trying to do the right thing for the people, it wouldn't end that way. But for me, I don't like the way the government's run. I don't like all the things they do to us. We just can't get past the fact that the federal government owns about 80% of this county. And they're not going to give it up just because we tell them we want them to.
I disagree. I think that because of the 9th and 10th Amendment, they have to acquiesce. And I think our legal team would agree with that. No. Right here. We go to Clay.
They don't obey the law anymore. That's the trouble. The federal government doesn't obey the law anymore. I mean, I call up the governor's office every week. I think she's a criminal. She is a criminal. And how she can penalize our county sheriff for upholding the law, why can't we sue her for that? Why can't we put her in jail?
We can.
Yeah.
But we have to sue her here in front of Clay and a jury.
This ordinance.
I'm ruthless, aren't I?
Getting kind of like the Frankenstein movie. It's kind of time for us to get our pine knot torches and our axes.
Pitchforks.
And
That's what I'm saying. You guys go get enough of them and then, yeah.
Catherine County's already got the reputation when Bucky's dad and Anita's dad. Catherine County land use plan, we've already got the bad reputation. I wouldn't worry so damn much about any more reputation. We've already got it. We're the only county that has never voted for Obama. We're the only county in the state of New Mexico that has stayed true to the people. So why change it?
Mr. Chairman, I think with the time that we spent here today, and I think is the time that we go ahead and make a motion. I make a motion that we table this, or that we.
If you don't want to move forward, then you can direct not to publish the ordinance.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we direct not to publish this ordinance.
I'll second it.
I got a motion and a second that we take no further action. We direct not to publish this ordinance. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to present this.
It's a great theory, but when you're on this end and you're looking at, I mean, we got tied to the government money.
I do understand.
And if they come up and they say, that money that these fire departments get from the state fire marshal's office, you no longer give it to them, we'll take all the trucks back. How are we gonna provide fire protection? The same thing with EMS. If they take away the ambulances because they aren't owned by the county, well, they were,
Been there.
the money came from EMS Fund Act to the state. They take that away, how are we gonna take care of the public as far as their health is concerned? I mean, there's just way too many unanswered questions on this one, and
Right.
I don't look good in orange, I ain't going to jail. Stripes are not.
So the chairman's the only one willing to go to jail over this?
That's where I'd be.
If you could prove to me how we could make this work,
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go to work on.
I would go to jail for it.
Yeah.
But right now, you have not proven how this is gonna work.
Right.
other than statements. And put your money where your mouth is and show me how we can go to the US Forest Service and say, we're opening up those AUMs, we're gonna start timber production again. Go to Fish and Wildlife Service and say, you know what, we are getting $1,000 per wolf kill. They're coming in, they're paying us, and that's what we're doing. Then we can address this at a later time. And just for the purpose of not being on the watch list, I did not encourage wolf hunting.
Oh, that's right.
Recorded.
I'm gonna publish this,
Well, what I've done is every time I'm out in the woods and I see one of these wolf people, I just come up and start talking to them. And I have caused 2 of them to quit the program.
Simple-minded and the uninformed can be easily led astray. And those that cannot connect the dots, hey, look the other way. People believe what they want to believe when it makes no sense at all.